banks of payphones. It's George Brauchler right here on the George Show, 710 KNUS. Lots going on today. The weather, 95 degrees, but that's okay. It's only going to get hotter tomorrow, 97 degrees, and then 93 and 90. And then over the weekend, lots of lightning bolt activity coming out of clouds, 85 and 87, and then back up into the 90s.
You know, it's Slurpee Day.
Is today Slurpee Day?
Yeah.
Speaking of 7-Eleven.
Yeah,
oh,
Blake
because
Ryan,
it's 7-Eleven. I guess there's no coincidence there. It's just straight.
Yeah. So it's a free small Slurpee if you can find a 7-Eleven near you.
If you can find one near you. Yeah. Did you have a flavor that you liked on the Slurpees?
No, not really necessarily. As a kid, just, normally it was either blue or red.
No, I liked it. There was the Coke flavored one.
Oh, the Coke one, that was a good one.
It was a good one. The defect, of course, with the Slurpee and the thing that required the skill was how do you, tap it as you go through to get it to condense so that you're not just sucking air holes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you would.
And you've got to do that while filling as well.
You got to do it while filling. You want to pack in every single milliounce that's in there. None of that stuff good for you. I wonder, had I not consumed all those calories as a kid when my metabolism was like a hamster on a wheel, if I'd be in better shape today. Maybe I just conditioned my body.
See, that is the big lie about getting older, is because as you're getting older, they're always like, well, when you get older, you can eat whatever you want. It's a lie. You can't, because it makes you fat.
Oh, you can. Things. It's just, there's just consequences.
I know. That's the issue. That's because, like, you're little and it's like, blah, 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 I can have, 17 candy bars for breakfast and it doesn't matter. And now I have half a candy bar and gain 7 pounds. So, that's
right. And frankly, if you want to see exactly what Billy's talking about, you can go right to the Rumble, which is where we're at. But also, we're back up on the YouTubes.
Exciting.
We're back up. It's very exciting. I think right before we pulled the plug, and for those that didn't hear it yesterday, we got off of the YouTubes intentionally because they had reached out to Mark, who kind of, in some ways, he's like the TA or the resident assistant, the RA for your dorm, for this dorm. You know what I mean? Like,
anyways, especially with us in the morning.
To come around and to just give you that disapproving nod, like,
the voice of reason.
Why are you doing that? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
Where's my USB drive that someone stole from the TV? We're still looking into that.
Still looking into that.
But, Mark had pulled us off, and I think for all the right reasons, and that was they tried to limit what we could say on the radio by saying if you talk about election integrity, no matter what your position is, we don't care. We're going to take you down and dissolve your channel. And they've now revisited that. Like, maybe it's okay to talk about stuff on YouTube. So we are back up on YouTube. We're back up on Rumble right now. And you can, of course, always follow us on the app. I get a lot of people that tell me they listen to the app. And I like it. I listen to the app too because it's so clear and clean, and you can get it anywhere. You don't have to worry about the signal dropping off here, there, or anywhere else. And then, of course, you have the ability to reach out to us with the text at 710knus.com or the 710knus app. And then, of course, we have the phones at 303-696-1971. I'll give that number out a million times. There's just no need to call it right this second, unless you have some burning desire to talk about something. And I'll give you an example of someone who does is Alexa, related to the weather. Alexa has hit me this morning with some indications that perhaps there's some effort by the weather people to make it seem way hotter and way worser than it is in terms of the temperature. And it doesn't shock me. Well, it's a great example. So Alexa shot these pictures over a year apart with temperatures out of what I presume to be Europe, just given the way it looks. And what's interesting is with temperatures that were higher a year ago, same weather lady is standing in front of the map and everything is green. And it's like, our temperature is going to be 37 degrees Celsius. And then this year, the numbers are actually lower and they have the whole background as some variation of red and orange, like we're burning up. And I thought that was fascinating. And it has also made me wonder if there is, again, I'm not a conspiracy guy. I don't think that people sit around and shoot each other emails and they're like, and today's the day we bring down Donald Trump. I just don't believe that. People are just too lazy, too disorganized, and largely too stupid to pull that off. I mean, listen, we couldn't pull off Watergate. Come on. So, but I have noticed there is a significant uptick recently, and I think that this is, uncoordinated groupthink about all these environmental stories, like more and more stories about this is the hottest something on record, or the planet reached the highest temperature in 125,000 words. We cut open the world's largest tree to discover, in order to discover how bad we are. There's a lot of that going on. And then at the same time, there were these articles, and Billy, we might have talked about this yesterday, but for the fact that we ended up getting caught up in another conversation about the GOP. And that is, there are concerted efforts here for sure to try to get you and I to stop using natural gas. And whether it's the, hey, we're no longer after 2025 because of some ridiculous air quality rule that a bunch of bureaucrats are going to vote on, Denver won't be able to sell any more gas mowers, gas blowers, any of that stuff. Or this idea that we're like, Joan sent me something from Lakewood Council where they're talking about ways to do zoning or pass rules that impact whether or not gas furnaces and gas fireplaces and gas stoves can be put in your home. All these different things. I read an article the other day on how, living in a home with a gas furnace is like sucking down the secondhand smoke from an entire truck stop from the 1970s or something like that. I mean, it feels like there is a lot of effort to try to steer us with information towards the conclusion that, what? Convenience sucks, and so does natural gas. Everything should be electric so we can burn coal.
Yeah, the only counter to that is you'd have to show me that the information is incorrect. So even if it is alarmist, even if it is extreme, for me, then you'd have to show me that it is incorrect. So while it may be presented as alarmist, while it may be designed to not have you have gas heat in your home or not use a gas-powered mower, you would have to show me the information is incorrect. Because otherwise, if they are telling you the base truth, then they do have a point. Whether or not you agree with them, we can have that discussion.
No, but
in order for that, you have to show me
you
that they're
definitely
correct.
think, though, that the articles they choose to write about existing truth and choose not to write about for instance, if every day on this show we highlighted the case of a K through 12 public school teacher who committed a felony, and we went through, and that's what we talked about every single day, people would be like, holy crap, man, you're really pushing the message that teachers are criminals. And you're like, but it's a fact. It's a fact, and we're just reporting on the facts, and therefore we have a point.
Well, the thing is, it would be a fact that a percentage of them are criminals. And then you would have to show the statistical variation. What percentage of the teachers are being charged with this, and then is it a significant percentage?
You wouldn't have
that
to
would
show
be the
that.
issue.
You could merely tell the story about, here's another teacher who's out there fondling kids, or here's another teacher who picked up a DUI, or here's another teacher who got arrested for drugs. You don't have to give any more perspective than these people that are pushing the old, hottest temperature in the world. And then the next story is your gas furnace could be killing you. There's something about it going on here. Rarely do they ever offer any contrary view in these articles. And if they do, it's always like that bottom third, like, on page A47 for the rest of the story. So while I get it's one thing to say, hey, if it's the truth, I understand that. But how you write the truth and which truth you choose to put on, that has significant impact on the populace that reads it.
Within reason. But the issue is, I believe that you're coming to the conclusion that Marshall McLuhan decades ago said is necessarily invalid, that mass media tells you what to think, and it is incredibly ineffective at telling you what to think. It is, however, incredibly effective at telling you what to think about. So the idea is, if we went on the air every day and said highlighted felonies being committed by teachers, rather than the audience drawing the conclusion of, oh my God, all the teachers are felons, that's what the research shows that doesn't happen. The research does show that it would elevate the concern about teachers in the general audience.
Bingo. Yeah. That's what we're talking about here.
But it wouldn't lead you to a conclusion. It wouldn't lead you to a conclusion.
I don't know that's true.
Yes. Actually, no, hang on a sec. It is true because that's what the research has said. You can disbelieve that if you want.
I do.
But this research is decades old and has been verified over and over and over again.
But advertising says something else.
No, but
we're in the business of advertising.
Advertising is different. That's different as far as presentation and what goes on. And again, same thing. If you're talking about mass advertising is telling you to think about McDonald's, think about Toro, think about GM cars.
To drive you to use those products. Right?
No, that when you're in the buying decision, then they're there because you're not always hungry every time you see a McDonald's ad. but they're keeping that top of mind so that when you start to make the decision, that is part of the choice.
But
that's
isn't
how
that
it
what
works.
you're doing with the gas stuff too? You talk about how bad gas is over and over and over.
And
so
that's
when your
exactly-
city council or your state legislature says, let's ban gas stoves, Billy shouldn't have one, you're like, damn, gas is bad. I remember all those stories.
The issue is, wow, I've heard all these stories. Is it true or not? That's what the research shows. The research shows it can put that level of concern up in your mind, but it is very, very ineffective at bringing you to that conclusion. Mass media is incredibly ineffective at bringing you to that conclusion.
Maybe people were just smarter and more skeptical 40 years ago with the Marshall McLuhan studies.
But that's what the research has shown over and over and over again.
Yeah,
I mean, you can disbelieve it all you want.
I do. I absolutely disbelieve it because I know what we do and I know what the media does.
And there are some people that believe the world is flat and they disbelieve the idea that we're on a globe, and that's okay too.
Yeah, but
you're more than
that's completely different. One thing is a fact. One thing is an absolute provable fact. The other one is a study.
No, it's an absolute provable fact that mass media is incredibly ineffective at telling you what to think, but very good at telling you what to think about.
Yeah,
that's true.
The same thing. Their goal is what advertising is. Their goal is to give you information upon which you will later act. That's what they're doing. That's the purpose of telling you that your gas stoves. I mean, if you just Google gas stove safety, you get a ton of articles all within the last few months about gas stoves bad, gas stoves a risk, gas stoves this, we should end gas stoves. Why is that? Because it's a fact gas stoves are bad, or because there's this growing push for this green agenda? Where are all the other the other stories out there that gas stoves are awesome? Gas stoves are inefficient. Gas stoves are efficient. Gas stoves will save you money. Gas stoves are a cleaner carbon energy than anything else that we have. Where's all that?
That would have to be true in order for
it is true. That's my point. It is true.
Is that true?
Yes, it is absolutely true.
It's cleaner and safer than anything else.
It's cleaner, safer than any other carbon energy. Yeah, of course.
Okay, they're carbon energies. You're qualifying it.
No, that's what I said at first. You just stepped on my words.
So that's qualifier. That's okay. Fair.
Yeah. Well, buddy, every adjective is a qualifier. So if I just said it is cleaner with no other words, you'd be like, cleaner than what?
Yeah.
And I'd say carbon energy, and you'd be like, well, you've just qualified it. I'm like, that's right. I did. I just qualified it. Yeah. Where are all those stories? It's just weird, man, that we're having this sort of, and again, I don't think it's like a conspiracy where they sat around and Kyle Clark emails someone else and says, let's talk about how bad gas stoves are. It just becomes this sort of self-fulfilling prophecy of one person talks about it, the other people spin it, government puts out this thing, and all of a sudden we're out there pushing all this stuff. And the answer can't be, well, if it's a fact, then it's completely normal that they would write about this thing, because they don't write about the other. And there's an undeniable commitment by the left and big government to push us towards green energy solutions. And I used air quotes on that for the YouTubers and the rumblers out there, to try to push us towards green energy solutions, whether they're good or not, whether they're effective or not, whether or not they would wreck the economy or not. You and I both know that that's there. There's a bunch of crap on Twitter right now about how we need to not widen the lanes on Pena Boulevard, because widening lanes doesn't solve anything. It doesn't help with traffic at all. And I'm like, oh yeah, picture a 1-lane I-25 and tell me that. And people are like, well, we need trains. And it's all about this green stuff. Everything is green, 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 green. Are they facts? I don't know, but I'm not sure that that's the only analysis for what news we're consuming. And then someone texted, I can't follow this so early. I want the 6 a.m. fluff. I'm sorry. That's just what came up. I mean, we don't script out the first segment. And then someone else, I hear one. Couldn't you say the same thing about your job and those who do it? I'm not sure what that means. I'm probably
they're mostly worthless. Yeah.
I'm probably too late.
Yep.
That text came in at a time when we were probably in the middle of a different part of this thing, and I can't get it. Here's another one. Danger weather drama. Yeah. I mean, maybe it's Weathergate. Regardless of what they're saying about the weather, my car thermostat registered 98 degrees yesterday in Greeley. Ugh, that's our friend Janet. And then, yes, the tube texts. Anyway, it's just something to watch. I think the temperature has always been hot here in July, but you hear people talk about it in terms of the world's coming to an end. And I don't know. It feels like we're trying to pick up some momentum here with what we report on. I could be wrong. I've been wrong a lot for sure. But Billy, you had, I wish we were still doing Grievance Monday in a way, but it ended up just being you and I bitching and moaning about our own customer service experiences. Yeah. And you had one yesterday.
Oh yeah. This was, the kids having to take them to the eye doctor. And Get there, and they tell me that my daughter isn't in our vision plan. Like, no, I'm certain she is. No, we don't show her. We can't know, and so this is going to cost $1 bazillion.
She can't stand in the lobby, Billy.
Yeah, so it was awful. So I go around trying to find the information, getting online, and doing it on the phone, and that's always so much fun. And eventually, I'm like, no, here is the website from the company, and it shows that she is a dependent, and 2, here's the check marks that show all of the coverage that she has. Like, oh, well, we're not sure. We can't verify it. And at that point, and this is after 25 minutes or so, some other guy from back further in the office, I don't know, he emerges from the cave or whatever it is.
Food on his shirt.
Yes, exactly. And all of a sudden he's like, oh, yes, we've had a problem verifying these things. I think I've got about 35 of them to still do today. Like, wait, what? Hold on here. This seems like information that would have been super helpful like 20 minutes ago, that you were having a problem verifying multiple patients.
That person seem surprised by the information? The person that was telling you, no, I'm sorry, you can't sit down, because did she seem surprised?
Not at all. She's like, oh, okay. I'm like, wait.
Anyway.
wait. Yeah, stop this. Yeah.
Between that and my experience on the phone, anytime you call customer service, and I know this can only sound bad, but I don't know how else to describe it. Whenever someone answers the phone and I feel like I'm speaking to someone on the other side of the planet, listen, I get it. English can be a second language, but it has to be a language that you know. It's not okay to just know a handful of words that pop up on your troubleshooting screen that always begin with, I'm so sorry. Because 1, I don't believe you, and 2, I don't care. I just want to solve the problem. But that has happened so many times. By the way, did you know Frontier Airlines, you cannot reach a human being on customer service?
Really?
They have discontinued, going back to, I think, either months ago or a year ago, they've discontinued all live person customer service.
They just don't care.
No. And then the AI chat stuff, give me Chat GPT. I mean, at least that has some chance of entertaining me. The normal AI stuff is so mind-numbing.
Yeah, my favorite was when I was trying to do something with Comcast through the AI chat, and I got to it on a web page. And so this is probably 10 minutes or so back and forth the AI chat, and I said, have you tried this web page? It was the web page that I started at to get to the AI chat.
Sounds on brand.
Yeah. However, I had an amazing experience 5-6 days ago with T-Mobile customer service.
Did you say T-Mobile or
T-Mobile? T-Mobile.
Okay, because one of those is a criminal website, but the other.
But how would you know that?
I just only the way you pronounced it, because T-Mobile sounds horrible.
T-Mobile. We needed to upgrade 2 phones, and we needed to find out about the insurance coverage on our daughter's phone, because she likes to break them. So she has the insurance coverage, and we eventually, it took a little while, eventually got to a human, and the person was fantastic. The person was, let me find out exactly the insurance coverage. Oh, well, and look at these dates in here. Well, you know what? In these dates, if you went to the Apple store, they're going to give you the runaround. Don't do that. Go here and file this here. Here's the website. Let me send it to you. And also, here's a text message. You can get to an automated AI chat, and here and follow this and do this, and then talk to us about how we can upgrade the phones and the plans, and checked back later in the day to make sure that everything was going okay. Checked back later and said, were you able to access that website in order to make sure you can file the insurance claim? No, actually, it hasn't let us do that. Hang on a sec. Let me go ask some people. Let me figure it out. And then came back and said, oh, here's what you need to do, and do this, and then you're going to be able to do it. And sure enough, it worked.
Oh,
I couldn't believe it.
And that was AI? That wasn't like a human?
No, it
was
actually human. No, it was a human that did this. And so that's the thing is, we reached the human, and this lady went out of her way to make sure that we were taken care of. It was phenomenal. I have not experienced customer service like that in at least 5 to 6 years. It was incredible.
I think that's a great story. It seems sadly like the exception. Like, this is the kind of thing you would have expected a while ago. I would love a company that comes out and says, you get a human every time, right? Like, I would be like, oh man, I think I'd be willing to pay a couple bucks more to speak to a human being rather than do the chintzy penny pinching Frontier Airlines. Whatever your complaint is, we have a robot that won't answer it on this thing. It's bonkers. And then the people that are given, I kind of want to know what's going. I think what we need is, who's the dude that does all the undercover breaking stories for the right? James, what's his name?
I don't know.
Oh, good Lord. You know who I'm talking about. That I know Alexa does. It's the James dude. He goes undercover and discovers that Acorn is out there doing ridiculous stuff with abortion and all this other stuff. Oh God, you'll notice.
It's the guy. He's being sued. By
Right. He's being sued, but we need somebody like that for customer service.
I'm not sure we need that.
No, not him. Stuff he's done, but we need something like that for customer service.
Yeah.
We need someone to go undercover and pull back the curtain on the garbage that is customer service. It feels like the movie Rainmaker with Matt Damon and Danny DeVito from a long time ago, where that insurance company gets sued and their plan is the first like 3 times you call in, they deny your claim, just to deny your claim and try to deter you. This feels like the same things. Like we need people to talk to. And I always tell myself when I'm complaining on the phone, and that happens quite a bit these days, that I know it's not you. I know this, you don't own this company. I know that you don't create the policies. I'm just asking you, does this make any sense to you?
Yeah.
Like after you've been on hold for 2 hours and they're like, well, I'll tell you what, why don't you see if this thing comes through on the email? And if not, just give us a call back. And I'm like, nope, no, there's no chance I'm going to hang up with you. Because I just spent 2 hours on hold to get to you. Any chance you can just write out the email wave with me here? And they're like, well, James O'Keefe. Thank you, Alexa. That's exactly what I knew Alexa would know. She probably has the tattoo. There was another one. Someone else hit me with O'Keefe too. Thanks, Jen. That's right. There's just, there's so much wrong with the customer service universe today. And I blame big business. For them, it's all about the bottom line. They don't give a crap about you, the consumer, as long as you keep spending money. And my guess is what they've decided and they've shown is, we can provide pretty garbage customer service, but if everybody in our industry is doing it, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Where are you going to go? All the airlines are likely similar. I've never had to call Southwest, so I can't say, but United, American, by the way, another heads up, if you're flying United anywhere internationally, do not go through Newark. If you have to spend a couple extra bucks to not go through Newark, you'll thank me because you'll get your luggage. When you go through Newark, it's like Russian roulette with luggage. Every 6 bags, I think something just gets taken out and winged across the room and sent on another plane to some other part of the planet Earth. It's just part of what they do. It's like the opposite of tracer rounds. They just want to make sure that they still have the ability to screw it up. James O'Keefe, Veritas. Yes. And note, Jen, it was you and Alexa that both came up with the same answer on O'Keefe. Listen, I could complain all day long about customer service, and I will. I'll come back and explain to you some more about the nightmares that is customer service in my life over the summer. But for me yesterday, buddy, the only thing of note was I convinced Graham to go out on a little 3-mile run with me. I had not run in a few days, getting ready for this ridiculous Baton Death March called the Marine Corps Marathon. And it is so hot outside, man. I can feel it. He starts laughing because every half mile I would turn to him and go, what did you say? Did you say you need to stop?
Yeah.
He's just laughing. He's like, you keep asking me if I want to stop. Do you want to stop? I'm like, I don't want to stop, but I'm happy to stop if you want to stop. I mean, if you need to tie a shoe or I am happy to do it, but I don't need to do it. Now I'm talking like that on the run. It's, I don't need to stop. But if you need to stop, you can take a stop. And so we end up finishing and he feels bad about how slowly he ran. And I'm like, son, I appreciate where you're at, but when you denigrate the pace that you ran, you're denigrating my pace too, because I ran with you. I get it. Old man can't keep up. So we'll see. I'm supposed to run 2 other longer runs this week, 5 miles and 7 miles.
That seems like a bad choice.
I'd like to break them up into 1 a day, and I mean 1 mile a day, add them together and put those runs together. So that's really it. Today, big day for the boys and dad. We're going to go see the afternoon showing of Mission Impossible 7.
Yeah, that's right. Did you make it all the way through the other films?
Did you make it? That's such a very technical question. All 6 films except for 2. Jeff boycotted 2. He said he won't watch 2. He said it's the worst of the bunch. You could pull it out of the whole thing and not lose a single step. And other than that, every one of those movies played in the house. Now, whether I saw them or was awake to see them, that's open to debate right there. But somebody had the TV on with those movies playing for all 6. So somehow we got through all 6. And at the end of the 5th one, we did 2 yesterday. Well, 2 of them showed up on the screen. Trey had fallen asleep and he was like at the end of 5, towards the end of 5. And he said, hey, I think I'm burned out. I go, whoa, you can't get burned out on Mission Impossible. We're just about to go on Tuesday, man. Then let's stop watching it. And he's like, no, no, we got to get through this. And I'm like, so we've seen so much Tom Cruise and action and drama and suspense that I never had considered this. Can you get all Mission Impossible out? Can you see too many Mission Impossibles so we'll find out today.
And I have a problem with it's not a problem with Tom Cruise per se, but I have a problem with him on the screen anymore because I just see him as Tom Cruise. Every time he's in a movie now, I see, oh, Tom Cruise is hanging out with these people. Oh, look, Tom Cruise is jumping out of an airplane. I mean, I can't buy him as another character now because there's so much other stuff outside
the man
of
who
it.
saved Hollywood. I don't know. I love the action movies. I love the idea that he does them.
Yeah, I love them, and they're great. But I see Tom Cruise doing cool stuff. That's it. He's not another character.
Do
he's just
you
Tom Cruise.
think of Tom Cruise doing the couch jumping thing on Oprah when he first started hooking up with Katie Holmes? I picture it in my head all the time where he's like, ee! I thought, oh, buddy, I don't know what's going on there. But
even now I go back and I watch the old Top Guns and stuff. That's Tom Cruise. It's Tom Cruise flying a plane.
Yeah,
and he's not Maverick. It's just Tom Cruise. It's hard. It's broken that wall. And there's a couple of those that happened for me.
He's enjoyed so much success, Billy. I'm contemplating Scientology. I'm thinking to myself, is that the secret? Is that why your skin is so good at age 60? Is it Scientology?
It can't be all the money.
Yeah, no. Or is all the money from Scientology? Yeah, exactly. I mean, are they the best lottery players ever? By the way, they're $700+ million up for the big lotto. If you're interested, we could go halvesies.
Man.
We could split it up after the taxes. It's kind of negligible. It's only a few $100 million. But
who cares?
Listen, we're going to cut. It is hardly worth it. We're going to cut away for a break, and if we don't win the lottery between now and when the ads stop playing, we're going to come back and do the Thorpe Report. That's all the good local news you need to get caught up on, and then we cut away for a quick break. Come back and we do You Choose the News. I am hopeful we're able to, despite the fact that I've blown through the 30-minute wall again here, that we're able to get in the advertiser. Stick around. George Brauchler on the George Show, 710. KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. I don't think it's me anymore. We just have longer breaks, man. I don't know what the heck's going on, but these things, I could do all sorts of stuff during the breaks, whereas before I'd have to stay close. I went out to my car and took a nap and came back. So, I mean, they're just longer. So we got to get right to it.
I finished the Brazilian wax.
It's I really wish you wouldn't touch Blake like that. We're going to get right to it. It's called the Thorpe Report. It's all the good local news worth knowing about. Billy.
Hey, morning. Yeah. The big question this week with our high temperatures, 96 today, possible, and 94, 93, and then 87 and 85 Friday and Saturday, and a few thunderstorms. Oh my gosh, that is the day that Taylor Swift is supposed to be here in concert. So
it's the Yankees concert, the Yankees game too.
Could there be thunderstorms at Power Field at Mile High?
Oh boy,
possibly. Roughly about a 30% chance of a storm on Saturday night, 20% chance of a storm on Friday night. But we'll see what happens. As always, it's so many days away. The weather people really don't know what they're doing.
No, they have no clue.
No clue.
They're guessing.
Yep. A Brighton man died early yesterday morning in a car crash at Chambers Road and East 40th Avenue. Aurora Police Department said the officers responded right around 2 o'clock in the morning. Based on the investigation, they determined the man driving a black Nissan Rogue had stopped for a red light at the intersection. While waiting for the light to turn green, a 26-year-old driver of a gray Honda Accord crashed into the back of the Nissan and rolled one time, police said. Investigation is still going on. Elsewhere, the Aurora Police Department is investigating after a patrol officer pursuing a shooting suspect crashed into another car on Sunday night near Peoria Street and East 6th Avenue. One officer and two people in the other car were taken to the hospital with minor injuries. It was around 9 o'clock in the evening when police were contacted about a woman who had walked into a hospital with a gunshot wound. Officers determined the shooting happened near East 6th Avenue and North Del Mar Circle. Again, an investigation still ongoing.
I wonder how close that is to the hospital. Someone dropped her off. Like, I'm sorry I shot you. Good luck.
Yeah, good luck with that. Here, have a cookie. An Arapahoe County judge refused to issue a key jury instruction in a high-profile murder case, which lowered the prosecution's burden of proof and has prompted Colorado's second highest court to overturn the defendant's conviction last month.
That's tough.
And it's it has to do with felony murder, and it has to be the person that didn't actually pull the trigger. It was the shooting of Lloyd Chavez IV, student at Cherokee Trail High School in May of 2019, but they were involved in the confrontation. And so felony murder in our state does not require that somebody pull the trigger and to cause another person's death, but be guilty of felony murder, you need to participate in certain serious offenses, robbery, some other stuff. And they're saying because of the judge didn't give a key jury instruction, perhaps they need to give the guy a new trial. So we'll see what happens here. Climber died after falling about 500 feet while free soloing in Rocky Mountain National Park on Sunday. The climber is a 26-year-old woman from Boulder. She was free solo climbing on the 4 acres of Blitzen Ridge. And basically she fell about 500 feet to the ground.
Oh my God.
Body was recovered early Monday morning with the help of a helicopter crew. Name not yet been released.
Oh, splat. Yeah. That's awful.
And splat, thank you. Two of Colorado's largest cities may be pausing their relationship that allows them to share some police resources. Aurora Mayor Mike Kaufman is proposing the split because of a disagreement over who should pay for lawsuits related to policing at the 2020 protests in Denver. Aurora has already filed a suit against the city of Denver because of this dispute, and Kaufman now proposes a break in the broader police mutual aid deal. So we'll see what happens there.
Isn't this a lot like on a date? The whole you break up because you can't, I guess, agree upon what going Dutch means.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. Who's
I'll pay for mine, you pay for yours. And like, I know, but we got the appetizer. It's your turn.
It's your turn. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm not. You ordered the appetizer last time. I wanted the pot stickers. You wanted the buffalo nachos.
You wanted calamari.
That's right.
So we'll have to see. Yeah, I don't know what's going to go on there. Also on Saturday afternoon, Transportation Security Administration officers at DIA discovered another loaded weapon there. So far, 93 have been intercepted by TSA officers far in 2023. Yeah, at this time last year, they'd only seized 77 firearms. So we're up. We've gone from 77 to 93.
Raise your hand if you think they've caught all the ones that have come through there.
No,
I mean, good Lord.
Yeah. I keep thinking, who's bringing their gun to the airport? We haven't gone over this already.
We know it. It's elected officials here in the state. Do you remember that? We had one.
Yes. Oh, and then speaking of elected officials, 2 freshman Colorado Democrat lawmakers have filed a lawsuit against the Colorado House of Representatives claiming pervasive violations of the Colorado Open Meetings Law.
Oh, yeah.
It was filed in Denver District Court and accuses both parties of violating the law by holding secret meetings throughout the 2023 session to discuss pending legislation without notifying the public. So that's it. That's all I got.
I would like to a couple things. One, I'd love to have Roger Hudson on. He's the chief of staff for the House Republicans to have the conversation about the transparency stuff and the core stuff. But something else, man, that somebody just pointed out in a text. that overturning of that conviction in Arapahoe County.
Yep.
Do you know who argues to defend that conviction in front of the Court of Appeals?
No, who does?
It's the Attorney General.
Oh, okay.
I mean, if you
So
are
another
looking,
win.
if you're looking for more
Oh,
evidence
geez.
that this guy does not know what he's doing, or at least the team he's assembled to do it, my goodness, man, this guy keeps getting punched in the face on the law. Like, what is happening here? And maybe it's just the 18th. Maybe it's residual hatred from my time in there, because he went to the Supreme Court and lost on counterman. That was one of our cases. He then went to the Court of Appeals and lost on the case you just read about. That was one of our cases. Maybe he's just like, I'm going to mail it in for the 18th.
Yeah.
Screw those guys.
Forget that.
Yeah, you can
guy.
have your stalkers and murderers. We don't need them here
Yeah,
in Denver.
not
We
at
don't
all.
even prosecute them anyway. So there. Listen, we got to cut away for another break. This one could be 30 minutes. Nobody knows. But when we come back, we're going to do the You Choose the News with Billy. Stick around. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. So you think you can stop me? Well, I can't stop you or the clock, and that means I got to turn it over Ricky Tick to our good friend William for You Choose the News.
Ricky Tick, that's a new one. I like
Yeah,
that.
that's it.
Well, yes, it is time for everybody's favorite fake radio news game show, You Choose the News, where we have scoured the interwebs for mere moments this morning to find ridiculous stories and place stupid headlines on top of them. Why? To play this fake radio news game, because I still don't understand it, but they continue to pay us for it. So, shh, don't share the secret. Alrighty, sir. We have 4 wonderful headlines for you this morning. Here are your choices. Sorry, prison's full. Moose out front should have told you. Headline number 2, babies, 2 legs or 4. Headline number 3, ha 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 ha, bang. Headline number 4, like something out of a Nicolas Cage movie. Alrighty, sir, your choices yet again are sorry, prison's full. Moose out front should have told you. Babies, 2 legs or 4. Ha ha ha, bang. And like something out of a Nicolas Cage movie.
Who's the moosiest moose you know? Prison moose.
Prison moose. We are traveling to Lima, Peru. Yes, there are countries like France, Brazil, South Korea, and maybe in the future, the United States that have jailed former leaders. But in Peru, they do it differently. In Peru, they have the Barbadillo. It is an entire prison dedicated to former leaders that are now locked up. Yes, it's sort of a VIP jail, more like small custom apartment units, but they have a problem in Peru. Their prison with the former presidents that have run afoul of the law is now full.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. the first inmate arrived in 2007, but now they're full. They have had so many presidents.
Prosecuting presidents so quickly they can't make enough of them.
They can't, exactly. So now it is full. They're like, nowhere to put our
the
presidents
decision
that break
to
all the law.
run for office is like to burglarize your neighbor's home.
Exactly.
There's a chance I may not come back from this.
I think that's funny. It's like they've had so many presidents that are breaking the law. They have an entire prison dedicated to it, and now it is full.
That's its own Netflix series.
Yes,
it's like
it
Big
is.
Brother.
It is.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Except it's just the house, the apartment full of all the ex-presidents.
That would be really funny. And you get to vote on which one gets early parole. Alrighty, sir.
Or
your
put
second
to
choice.
death.
Yes. Ooh, that's even better. Babies, 2 legs or 4. Ha ha ha, bang, or like something out of a Nicolas Cage movie.
Nick Cage for the win.
Yeah, it's like something out of a Nicolas Cage movie. We're traveling to Kentucky because recently a man did something that you normally would find only in a Nicolas Cage movie. He discovered buried treasure. This man came across hundreds of U.S. gold pieces that are minted between 1840 and 1863. That's Civil War, pre-Civil War era. Now, there are $1 gold coins, $20 gold coins, $10 gold coins.
Where do you find this?
In Kentucky. They're not giving you the exact location for obvious reasons, nor identifying the man. So exactly. So you can't go there real quickly. Now he has 20 $10 Liberty coins, 8 $20 Liberty coins. And that's important because those $20 1 ounce Liberty coins, just one of them recently sold for 6 figures at an auction.
Oh, dang.
He has 18 of these particular coins.
Wow.
Yeah. He also has a bunch that are from 1850 to 1907, minted by the Treasury Department after gold was discovered in California. And the really cool ones are some of his $20 Liberty coins do not have the phrase "In God We Trust" on them because that was added after 1866.
Interesting.
Now, remember, why would he find all this in Kentucky? Well, if we travel back to middle school and learning about the Civil War, Kentucky was neutral during the Civil War. However, these are Federalist minted coins. So the theory behind it is a rich family in Kentucky tried to hide all of their wealth from the Confederate raiding parties that often would come in there and take their stuff. So that's what happened. But this guy has found hundreds of these coins.
And they're going to trace them back to the family that had them?
No.
Okay, well, I figured that. Like all treasure,
exactly.
if you find it, you own it.
It is.
So.
I refer you to the law case of finders and keepers versus losers and weepers.
That's it.
Already been decided, sir. Alrighty. And your final choice this morning, babies, 2 legs or 4, or ha 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 bang.
Ha 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 bang?
Yeah, ha 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 bang. This is rather surprising because we have 3 teenagers in Georgia that are now charged with felony murder after egging someone's home.
Uh-oh.
It sounds weird, but the 2 18-year-olds and a 19-year-old have been charged with malice, murder, battery, criminal trespass in relation to the death of a man earlier on this month. Now, what happened was the 3 teenagers show up to egg the guy's house. He figures out what's going on. He runs outside and chases them back to their car. That's when the teenagers smartly reach into the car, pull out the firearm, and shoot the guy dead.
The guy who's trying to protect his house from eggs?
Yes. They
killed him
dead. Yes, they kill him. And again, I want to know who brings a gun to the egging. And again, okay, now when did this change as far as egging and making sure that firearms get involved here? Because back in my teenage years, I may have done my share of egging. Well, okay, to be perfectly honest, I may have done my share of egging, George's share of egging, and several other listeners' shares of egging as well.
There are eggs on this building.
I might have kept probably some small farms in business. So, but never firearm. It's a prank. I don't understand why we're bringing that into the end of it. I just
here he thought he was taking on kids armed with dairy products, and the yoke's on him. Hello, that's probably too soon. Not
that
sensitive.
Is way too
Not
soon.
Sensitive.
Oh well, that is it. That is the end of You Choose the News. As always, George is your winner, and I am your perennial loser. But today, we are sponsored by Dr. Evil's gas-powered home. Yes, stick it to the lib. Libs, you don't even need a gas-powered stove and a furnace. You also can have a gas-powered washer, dryer, coffee maker, microwave, even an eternal flame that is burning always in your backyard just to piss them off. All powered by beautiful natural gas. Order now, and they'll throw in a free family respirator and an iron lung. Yep, operators are standing by. Back to you, sir.
Yeah, stick it in the Liberal, or stick it to the Liberal, whatever it is. Billy was saying it. Hey, listen, we're still trying to get Lori Smith on. We might get her on today, but when we come back at 7, we're going to talk about some changes in the world and maybe changes in your living circumstance. Stick around. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS.
Imagine the lifelong impact of a journey to the Holy Land, surrounded by like-minded travelers. Picture yourself stepping foot in iconic locations right out of history. With nationally syndicated radio hosts Dennis Prager and Mike Gallagher, you'll gain firsthand understanding of the spiritual and political importance of this vital region.
Hi, it's Mike Gallagher here. I hope you'll join Dennis Prager and me on an amazing journey through Israel in October 2023.
Discover Israel's vibrant culture and why this nation is such a strategic partner for the United States. Join Dennis Prager and Mike Gallagher on this life-enriching Israel tour, October 25th through November 3rd, 2023. For more information, call 855-565-5519 or visit standwithisraeltour.com.
George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. It's hour 2 of 4. We get replaced at 10 by a guy named Charlie Kirk. We then go Prager. I think his name is Dennis Prager. I'm kidding. It's Dennis Prager at 11, Seb Gorka at 1. And then we go live and local right back here with Deb Flora from 3 to 4. And then Stefan Tubes from 4 to 7. Listen, one of the things we talked about at the top of the 6 o'clock hour in that first unscripted, very frenetic, chaotic segment of the show was the gas stove thing. And Billy said, I'd like to go back to warming things by setting fire to wood, just wood. And I said, no, he didn't say that. We were just talking about the gas stuff. And somebody has called in to give us gas. I'm kidding, to have a conversation about gas and what's going on in Lakewood, my hometown. Joining us on 303-696-1971 is friend of the show, Joan. Joan, how are you?
Hi. I'm doing okay. I went to the city council last night to give them an update on a FOIA that I've been working on.
For 100
And-
years. You've been working on this thing for 100 years. You know what I mean? Since you were like a preteen, you started this FOIA request, and now you're still trying to get this information. I hope you get it. It's fine. It's kind of like the dude finding all the Civil War era gold coins. You know, you need to find that. But nonetheless, I want to say before you get to the details of what happened, I love that you participate at that level because so many people either can't or won't. So the fact that you do it and then you report on it with us, that makes me feel good. Thanks, Joan.
So it was a very short meeting, and there was not an awful lot going on, and there wasn't an awful lot of people there. And last year there was a city council action to give the Lakewood Advisory Committee more teeth on and to write policy. And this is one of the things that the left is doing. They did this past week with your gas equipment on your lawns and stuff. That came out of a committee, and it's going to another committee. And I don't even think they're ever going to have a hearing on it because they don't want to know what the people want.
It's the Regional Air Quality Council. And what Joan's talking about, if you didn't hear it on 710, was they voted on Friday to ban the sale of small gas-powered lawn tools in an effort to control in an effort to improve air quality along the front range, which means that these things could all be gone, whether it's the leaf blowers, the weed whackers, all that other stuff. They could be gone by, what was it, 2025 or something like that?
Yep. And so now they want to have this sustainability committee, which is a subcommittee of the Lakewood Advisory Committee, to do some research. And they want to look at electrifying your house.
Well, I already have electricity in my house.
So Mary Jensen, well, they want everything to be electrified. There's no gas.
Did you say
No
Mary
gas.
Jansen?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, great lady.
She asked some questions about exactly what this meant and what they were trying to do. And this gentleman who stepped up was like, well, we need to get rid of the gas. And there are federal grant monies right now that they can make use of in order to do these studies.
Yeah.
So anyway, the council had a vote, and they voted to pass to let the advisory committee see about degasifying Lakewood, and not just with the new starts, but when you go to renovate your house. They
It's
don't want
just
to.
so ridiculous. I mean, the stories now too about natural gas is worse than secondhand smoke. If you hover over your stove with an unlit gas flame, bad things could happen. I mean, we've been using natural gas for a jillion years, and not that it couldn't be cleaner or safer, but in terms of whatever carbon fuels we're using, it's the best thing. And this idea that we're all going to move towards a sun/wind generated electrical grid is just bonkers. My guess is the Chinese just wait till we make that transition, throw an EMP into the pot, and then come on over and defeat us with butter knives, you know?
Well, I can tell you how it divided out. It divided the leftists with the people that had common sense. And the real interesting thing was that the mayoral candidate, Wendy Strom, voted to do this study.
Now, the study itself doesn't carry any force of law, right? Like, you still have to go to the elected leaders to do something about it, right?
Well, that's the part that's really fun, is that they're doing this and with the county commissioners as well. They're making these advisory committees, which, by the way, I don't believe is legal to do.
An advisory committee
is supposed to be making advice, giving you advice.
Yeah, I agree.
Not making policy.
Well, they can advise on policy. I agree, but it should be adopted by the elected leaders. If they're deferring to these ridiculous, unaccountable committees, something should be done with that. The problem is, Joan, you live in my hometown of Lakewood, and it has shifted so far to the left since I grew up there, since I was delivering the Denver Post way back when I was a kid. It is a much different city. How long have you been in Lakewood, Joan?
Well, I moved there when I was 13, and I'm not going to tell you how old I am.
So you've been there at least 20 years.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, that's what I do. I'm just really good at math. But you've seen these changes then, man. We have been there. Brauchlers have been in Lakewood and still are in Lakewood since 72. So we've been there over 50 years, and it's a city as old as I am. I mean, it was born the year I was born, and it has changed so dramatically, but not very differently from the other cities that touch Denver. I mean, if you're looking for places that are struggling outside of Aurora, now that they have a conservative majority, you can just look all around the metro area and see this trend towards the blue. And it also means trends towards big government. One other thing I wanted to ask you about, Joan, who does your lawn? Does Mr. Jones
My
do
husband.
your lawn? Okay. So, and does he have a gas mower?
Yes, sir, he does.
So this thing that says, hey, we're going to vote to outlaw or ban the sale of these gas mowers by 2025, and we're going to all go electric. Doesn't it feel like a lot of folly, like a lot of moral grandstanding? Because at the end of the day, I don't know if you know this, but we've banned a lot of fireworks here in Colorado, and that means nobody has big fireworks during the 4th of July. Nobody ever has that. Oh, wait a minute. They get it all the time, right? Like we also, at least for the moment, ban certain kinds of fentanyl. It's everywhere. So somebody tell me, if you're just going to ban the sale, aren't we just going to all drive to Wyoming and get a gas mower? I mean, isn't this just going to feed the Wyoming economy?
Well, I think what they're eventually going to do is turn off the gas hookups to your house. And then they're not going to have any gas at the gas stations. So unless you're, I don't know, maybe driving to Wyoming to get your gas for your gas mower, their agenda is very, very harsh.
So somebody just texted in, Joan, to ask your dog's name. And I presume that was your dog, not your husband.
That is my dog. My dog's name is Willis.
Willis?
Willis, Willis.
Like Bruce Willis?
Yep. And
or what you talk about, Willis? What you barking about, Willis?
Yep, that one. and the fun part about this is he is my 3rd wire fox terrier, and I have named them all Willis, so that
makes it easy on you. I mean,
right.
You don't have to change the monogram on their collar. That's nice. You just reuse that.
Yep. Well, and speaking of collars,
you've been arrested.
2 weeks ago, Willis had genital mutilation surgery.
Oh, well, hold on. You transitioned Willis?
Yes.
To what? Is Willis now a cat? Oh, to a neuter. No. Nevertheless, I thought you were going to use surgery to transition your dog. I didn't realize. So, the neutered thing. That's probably why he's barking.
Could be.
Willis is probably asking, where did I go? You know what I mean? Like, what have you done to me? Joan, I don't want to turn this into a neutering show, but thank you for the call about Lakewood and what's going on there. I appreciate it. Thanks, Joan. Joan's line is open at 303-696-1971. Please don't call about neutering your pet, but you can definitely call about what you're seeing going on in your community with this. I do think that there is this growing trend on the news, and Billy and I will disagree about whether the news has any impact on what you ultimately do with this sort of stuff, but there is just an uptick in the number of stories about gas, whether it's gasoline or the gas-powered thing. And I just wonder if there is a line beyond which you won't go. I mean, where do you draw the line? Here's my thought. You ban the sale of gas mowers. Is it going to have an impact? It sure will, right? Because Lowe's and Home Depot aren't going to just forego the opportunity to make money by selling you something. So they'll make the transition to the electric stuff, I presume. But you and I, if we still want to use gas mowers, and I would just out of protest, and maybe that's the question, what would you do just out of protest? I'm going to drive to Wyoming and have my mower serviced, or I'm going to, it's a lawnmower sanctuary. You know what I mean? I'm going to go up there and get me a lawnmower that uses gas and come back down and do this.
Yes. It's a 2-cycle engine. A sixth grader can service the
listen,
I mean, it's not really that hard. I mean, cleaning carburetors, you got a single spark plug. It's not, there's not a lot going on there. I have the
Mercedes of lawnmowers. No, I don't know what I have, but it's probably, I'm not sure if it needs to be serviced, but if it does, I will go to some place. It's probably black market servicing, black market lawnmower stuff. Like the black market for mowers, you're going to be able to sell these things where you're like, come here, buddy, come here. Look what's in my trunk.
It's just like you being able to load your own ammunition in your garage. You can have casings, and you can get the powder, and you can get the flashing, and then you can create your own ammunition in your garage. Same thing. You can service. Yeah, but it's really easy to service it.
This is obviously going to have to be another segment of the show at some point, is how to deal with your engine. I don't do that. I can change tires. I can do all the
place you're going to have the most difficulty. Clean spark plugs in the carburetor. But those
Bill,
are two things you're going to have to
wouldn't you go to Wyoming just out of protest to get yourself a gas mower? I don't like the government dictating to me what I have access to and stuff like this. It's not drugs. For instance, when up at CU Boulder, and this had to be 89, 90. So I was about 2.
But I was a drug story.
I wish. No, but they had one of these Oxfam meet off kind of days where it was a meet off day, and which is such an interesting use of those words back to back like that. But it was a meet off day. You weren't supposed to eat meat. So my roommates and I was about to say their names, but then I realized I'd be outing them for something they probably didn't sign up for later in life. And that we went to Safeway and bought the largest steaks and spuds we could find and had a barbecue out on the deck. We were on the 3rd story of this building that you had hundreds of people had to walk by to get to school. And it was right by the Regent, if you know that area where the Regent is. And we just fired up the thing pretty much all day. I don't think I've ever eaten more red meat than I did during that day. Some of it just went to waste.
But Colin says thank you.
Yeah, I'm still dealing with it. And the entire point of it was, don't tell me what to eat. You know what I mean? Like, it was just the pushback. And then the day that they had when I was in the dorms and a bunch of, so this would have been the year before, and you go to the eating hall or the dining halls, wherever, and every dorm had their own version of that. And they had this Oxfam don't eat day, and we're going to contribute all the food to a bunch of people or whatever. And again, I'm a young man at the time, but my instant reaction was, screw you. Don't tell me what to do. And so we ended up probably getting in line 3 or 4 times, half eating some food, while the other people there sat in sackcloth and ashes and looked like, I'm just drinking soup. I'm just drinking water because I care so much. And we were like, I don't think I can eat another bite. You've only had one. I know. Let's try something else. So this thing right here, if I'm told, and it applies to Douglas County where I live, if it's, hey, you can't buy a gas mower, I'm probably going to pick up a second one. You know what I mean? As an investment.
I appreciate that. And oddly enough, I'm sure it surprised everybody, on the other side of this, only because I've already made the transition. I already have an electric mower.
To a man?
Yes, exactly. Finally. And my parents are so proud. I already have an electric mower, and the difference between having the gas mower and the electric mower is phenomenal. I will never go back to having that gas mower. And I actually have an electric leaf blower as well. And I'm looking at getting an electric shovel. That's a little weird thing, but we'll talk about that later. I know it sounds weird, but there are reasons for it. An electric shovel is basically just a really mini snowblower. It's a miniature snowblower. It's like really small. It's like the width of a shovel, and it has a handle, and you just run it over the course. Yeah, you run it over the sidewalk just like you would a shovel, but it goes and spits it all over your neighbor's
stuff. If I don't have the opportunity to suck in exhaust as I'm pushing the mower around, or the smell of gasoline as I've pumped it into the gas can, you know what I mean? And I close it up and I can still smell it on me. That's America, man. That's America.
No, it's not. It's awful. And you can't get that smell off it. But for me, I have no issue. I don't see the necessary. Okay, one, I'm questioning the harm that our 2-cycle engines are doing to the environment. I haven't seen anything that shows me that they are vast polluters. So I think
there are studies out there,
I know there
that say that your gas mower pollutes more than 15 semi-trucks.
But I'm looking at the significance. I want to see the significance of that. The issue that I've got is I don't necessarily think it's a big deal for an average homeowner. Making the transition from a 2-cycle engine to an electric mower is not a big deal for a homeowner. Where I have the issue and where I really disagree with what they're doing are the professional landscapers, guys that are out there with the large riding mowers and guys that are cutting grass.
By the way, those aren't going to be
banned.
Those aren't going to be banned through this.
Just wait, just see where they're going with this one, because based on some of the rules, it could be. And what I'm looking at specifically are the gas-powered leaf blowers that you run on a backpack. My son works with one of those because he is a groundskeeper.
Oh, wow.
And that would be one of the things that would be outlawed. And he knows the positives and negatives. He takes our battery-powered leaf blower with him, and they have a gas-powered one at the shop. And depending on the task, he chooses which one is going to be more efficient. And he says, for the small jobs, like right around your house, super easy to use the electric one. And it's dumb to go and get the gas-powered one and fire that up. However, if he's clearing large areas, there's some greenery in some other places and some large like park
So he's got to
areas.
go to the big gun.
Yeah, so he goes to the big gun. And so that's where I really think that's where this thing runs afoul of what we should allow, because I don't want those landscapers to have to invest in the infrastructure that it would take in order to have those batteries, because part of the reason is the batteries only last a certain amount of time. So any landscaper is going to have multiple sets of batteries so that they're in different stages of recharging. Otherwise, they're going to be down.
What
for a
was
while.
the first off? I don't think anybody really appreciates where electricity comes from, like how much is generated by coal burning plants.
Absolutely.
Like Europe, you know what I mean? Like they're like, where did we think the electricity was coming from? I guess we better fire up those coal plants again. But one, I did not realize, Billy, that your son was here illegally, because that's probably wrong.
Exactly.
Nonetheless,
that's
how was the price of the electric mower versus the gas mower options?
For me, it was wonderful because it was a gift. So that's for my wife.
And by gift, you mean left unattended in your neighbor's driveway. Yeah, I get it.
But I have been able to check, we do have a shared, banking account. So it was a little bit more than what a comparable gas powered, mower is. Not a lot. It's not where it's like, oh my gosh, I'm paying an extra $200, $300. I think it was about $50, more or less. And
that's $50, man.
But guess what? Here's the issue, though, is that $50, I'm not buying gas or oil to put into this 2-stroke engine anymore. You know what else I'm not doing? I am not spending the first 3 hours of the summer when I need to mow the lawn going through that engine, because every summer I would take out the carburetor, take out the spark plug, make sure the oil's okay, and partially disassemble the engine, clean it, and then put it back together. And so
I presume
having to do
that battery will last forever.
As long as you take care of it and understand the pluses and minuses of a lithium-ion battery, you can stretch that. And part of that
how long do you think it lasts? And for a Billy, not like a regular person, it lasts much shorter.
I'm thinking I probably have a decade in it.
Okay, and then what happens to the battery?
I don't know.
Pitch it in the trash.
Yeah, I imagine there's going to be some sort of lithium ion recycle. There's got to be
we're
battery recycling. But and so, But again,
we don't have to care about that. That's an environmental impact. That's a decade from now. Here's a couple things though that sort of highlight this. One is this texter says they don't need a mandate. Battery operated yard equipment works so well without the small engine hassles, which is what you're saying. People will shift there anyway. Okay, I'm good with a choice. That's my whole point. And then someone else says the difference is that Billy made the choice to go electric. Lisa says that. That's my whole point. Like if you let me, like if you and I had just had a conversation about, hey, I got this new electric mower. It's so sweet. You ought to check it out. I would. But when the government, when these bureaucratic pencil necks show up and they're like, and you can no longer have the choice. I'm like, the hell you say? I'm going to go, I'm going to have my own website, George's Gas Mowers. And I'm going,
George's Gas.
I'm going to take a loss.
We'll be in jars that we can sell online. And,
I'm going to take a loss to just import more of them from Wyoming. They're going to be like drugs or like untaxed cigarettes. I'm going to be driving around. Check it out, dude.
Want to see the new Toro?
Yeah.
Check this out.
This thing has 2.5 strokes.
Yes, exactly. And see, and I'm even though I am a pro the electric side of things, I do agree with you. I do not like the government coming in and telling us. Now, I am a little more bendable when we talk about natural gas in homes and things like that going forward. I'm a little more bendable on that one.
What does that mean, bendable?
I'm not. There's a point where I think that the government can come in certain areas and say, okay, we're not going to have you build with natural gas here, just like in certain areas in Arizona, they're coming in and saying, well, you can't have a regular green lawn, or you're not going to be able to have access to that kind of irrigation system to,
you think
to have
that's the same thing?
I think it's not necessarily the same, but I think it lives in the same area. And while I'm not 110% on board with it, I can get there easier than I can with the 2-cycle engine and the mowers. That I think is stupid. I just look at the idea that the government is saying, hey, we shouldn't have any more 2-stroke engines. We got to get rid of all lawnmowers because of our air quality. And that is the reason behind it. You've got to show me that, one, they're a significant contributor to the air quality versus the parking lot that is I-25 every morning and night. So tell me that that's the significant thing versus other stuff.
Isn't that what they'd say with the natural gas? Like, we can't have this is what they would tell.
I get it. Yeah. Yeah. But I'm saying that. Yeah. And I get it.
That's tell Joan at Lakewood. Is they're like, we have to do our part. China, of course, is polluting the entire planet, and what we do has no impact at all on anything, but we must do it. We must do it. We must bear the cost.
Again, though, it's not necessarily a zero-sum game per se as far as the earth. That while even China's doing it, just because they continue to pollute doesn't mean that then we shouldn't take steps in order to reduce the total amount of pollution on this globe. So that I understand that.
I truly don't mind the steps that are related to educating people to make choices. And I would be, listen, I own a hybrid, not because the government mandated it, but because I love trees. But I got a hybrid because I thought, oh man, I want to spend less on the gas and I'm going to blah, blah, blah. So you can get me there with education. But I am so sick and tired of this one size fits all, government has the answer thing. Someone's going to have to point to that government solution where it's like, man, they nailed that one. They really run that quite well. They've really made a good decision there. I can't find what it is. So if it's the Billy has the conversation with George, like, dude, this electric mower thing is the bomb. I love this thing. Here are the great things. Then I'm like, wee. But when it's these boneheads out of the Gold Dome, especially the Gold Dome, when they try to say things like, well, actually, local control over zoning ordinances is stupid because we've put ourselves in such a position here that no one can afford to live in crime capital and stolen car capital of the country. We need to dictate to you what you're going to use your land for. This feels like the same thing. Like government has the answer. The people that get into government to try to answer society's problems, man, I'm super skeptical. I want people now to go to government to say, what can I do to keep government from harming you? That's what I want.
The thing for me is I want them to, and part of it is where you are in that one. Although my filter is more, I want them to be in government to say, how can I make your life easier and better? And sometimes some of these choices
easier,
are not necessarily
yes, better than all of a sudden is so subjective. They're like, well, we're making your life better, Billy, because we're keeping you from having to breathe in natural gas.
Yeah. See, and then we can have some arguments about what we're talking about, because again, we can go back and say at some time in the recent past, we did things like paint a lot of stuff with lead paint, and that was wonderful, and it was a great way to praise. Yeah, and then we figured out that maybe we shouldn't be doing that. And there's other things with asbestos, which is a wonderful fire retardant, until we figured out that it also causes cancer. So there are times in which those rules and steps are necessary. I'm not convinced yet with the natural gas one, but I'm closer than I am on the 2-stroke engines, only because of what I see going on elsewhere. That somehow the government, the pointy head people have decided that is the one thing that we can attack, that we can make the air quality better. I disagree. I've seen a lot of people in my neighborhood that drive their cars every day. Not everybody's out there mowing the lawn every day. So I'm not convinced that this
or
is
mowing the lawn as much as they should.
Exactly.
Here's a couple texts. 2-gallon toilets aren't sold in Colorado. I drove to Wyoming to buy a couple when I remodeled my bathrooms because I want a whole bunch of different symbols to flush. Thank you, Rebecca. I didn't know that, by the way. I didn't know you couldn't have 2-gallon toilets because it'll hold 2 gallons, believe me. Put down plastic grass and you won't need anything. Think about that. We're going to go through the trouble of manufacturing plastic, which I'm sure is costless to the environment, and put down that as grass. And by the way, I have neighbors that have done that. There are some folks who are next door that put down AstroTurf on the back portion. They have a lot of great landscaping, but they have this one portion that's AstroTurf. It's brilliant. I mean, it looks great. I never see the sprinklers running. I don't really want to have sprinklers, but I get it. Here's one. Well, Billy is a real illegal alien from a different planet. The truth is out. Sounds like Billy is virtue-splaining. I don't see it that way at all. I just think that I don't think Billy bought a gas mower because
That's
of the government.
Virtue explaining. I've never heard that one before. That's interesting.
But I don't see
didn't.
that. I don't hear that from
And
you.
the reason and the reason I did
except for the lead paint stuff.
The reason I did the electric mower and the reason my wife and I were talking about it is because I got sick and tired of having to spend 3 hours or basically going through the lawnmower each and every season. And I got tired of it. And then draining the gas out of it at the end of the season. There was just so much other little tiny things that instead, if I just store the lithium-ion battery inside the house and then take it outside and go chunk and the thing starts, that's perfect. I gotta say, that's absolutely perfect.
The difference is the sound of the electric mower is the sound of the modern liberal male voice. You know what I mean? It's like, whereas the gas-powered mower sounds like the American conservative male voice. I'm like, it's gruff, it's rough, it's tough. The electric one just sounds whiny and super quiet, and maybe that's what we're looking for anymore. 303-696-1971. For reasons I can't explain, people have opinions on this, and I want to get to them, of course. Here's another text. Just because it is easier for Billy to make the transition does not mean it will be for everyone else. Let people choose what works for best. Where's freedom of choice? Remember when McDonald's had those decorative glasses made with lead paint? I don't, but I probably own some. You know what I mean? With who's the, it's not the Hamburglar, although I love the Hamburglar for a lot of reasons. It's Grimace.
Grimace, yes.
Yeah,
it's
Grimace.
his birthday, you know.
It is?
Yeah. It's
Today's Grimace's birthday?
Well, no, but is it this month, last month? Yeah, because McDonald's has got a Grimace promotional thing right now. And
really?
Yeah, and if you're missing out on...
on the shake.
Yeah, if you're missing out on the shake and the TikToks, you're missing out on some joy. You're really missing out on some joy for that one. I'm just letting you know.
In terms of birthdays, though, and this is a little far afield of where we're going, but I promise to get back there. Giorgio Armani. So the clothes that Billy wears into the studio, the maker of those clothes, Giorgio Armani, it's his birthday today, as well as E.B. White. And if you don't hear E.B. White and instantly shout out Charlotte's Web and Wilbur, I don't know what you did with your youth, but that's a wonderful, wonderful book. And then, of course, Robert the Bruce. Who I'd never heard of before I watched Braveheart, Mel Gibson's 1986 classic movie, 1996 classic movie. Nonetheless, that is those are the birthdays of the day. Here's a couple things, more text. Here's the deal. Listen, we're at a place. Oh my God, Billy, it's 7:33. How dare you let me blow past 7:25 again? I have ordered you to stop me from talking when it becomes time to stop talking.
But you know me and those governmental rules.
If the government stepped in, of course you'd do it. You would just, what can I do now, Mr. Government? I'm sorry, Mrs. or gender neutral government or whatever you're doing. Listen, we have Dwayne and Bird and others calling in at 303-696-1971. We're going to get to those calls when we come back from a break, as well as the texts. I would do a live read right now, but I can't because Billy let me talk too long. Stick around. We'll do more of that talky talk stuff when we come back. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler right back with you here, 710 KNUS. Some text before we get to Dwayne and Bert. My mom purchased an electric mower in the early 80s, and I used it until she sold her home in 97. It had a real long extension cord, and it really sucked. I love that. And I do remember some neighbors with the extension cord attached to the mowers thinking, no thanks, man. If I don't have the ability to run this thing. And before they put kill switches in, how many horror stories did you hear from people that are like, don't reach under the mower unless you turn it off? Because, you know, I heard a story about a guy a couple blocks over lost his fingers. And I'm like, this is natural selection. If you're reaching into the mower while it's on, I don't know. This is Darwin knocking on your door. I'm sorry. Isn't plastic a petroleum-based product, or am I wrong? Janet, no, you're not wrong. That is entirely true. I think what's scary is that the U.S. approved manufactured meat. That'll harm more than gas mowers. Scary to think what's going to be in our food. I do not want to derail this conversation. I just want to say that at Cold Stone Creamery the other day, I did opt to try the peanut butter suicide, or whatever it's called, with the almond milk, with the silk. I just thought, you know what? I'm willing to try anything once. Like the Impossible meat, I'm not going to go all Governor Polis and start down talking the meat industry that sustains so much of the Colorado economy from ranchers, but I'm willing to try it to see what's going on. Honestly, not bad. And I felt a little bit better about myself, but nonetheless, here's another one. And mining for ion batteries, lithium ion batteries, is horrible. All caps, for the environment, owned by China and manned by slaves. And batteries are not recyclable and detrimental to environment too. All very valid points. Let's see what Dwayne from Divide thinks about them. Dwayne, you're on 710. What's on your mind, my man?
Good morning, sir. Nice to see the veil has finally dropped from your eyes. That's what's going on.
Buddy, that veil has been there it's been gone for a long time. I've told you about the stuff of the past. But when it comes to the mower stuff, do you have electric mower or any electric equipment at all?
I have the usual, saws and everything else.
Yeah.
I'm in the mountains. The only grass I grow is stuff that comes
weed.
up naturally, and I have to go out and burn it and everything else, keep the fire mitigation down. This is an iron fist covered in a velvet glove. As we are being told, it's the great thing to go on. Really, it's pablum. Everybody's absorbing it, going, "Oh, it's so good." But you have people in the Congo that are killing kids by picking up cobalt. You have lithium that's just being ripped out of the planet, and it's a one-time use. The fiberglass blades on those incredible wind machines are non-recyclable, and there's only one place in the country, Wyoming, that buries them 100 feet under the ground after they stack them up so high. There's nothing environmental about the environmental movement. So it's one of these things of like, oh my. Well, but it's nice to know that you've finally woken up and said, oh, something's not really right around here. Why is this?
I would like to be better educated by the people that are pushing their agenda on the pros and cons of all these things. Like, we know all the cons, some of them, in my opinion, over exaggerated, about fossil fuels and carbon energy and all that stuff. But you never hear the stuff pushed out by the mainstream media in the volume that is similar that you talked about. Like, I'd heard that too. Those fiberglass blades, it's one and done. When they stop working, they just kind of exist somewhere else in the planet. We just bury them. The ion battery stuff, where are those going to go when they die? Like, are we shooting them into space? Are we, because you can't recycle them, or at least now you can. I agree, man. There's a big deficit in information on the green energy movement, but the problem that creates is we don't have to tell you the bad stuff if we're going to mandate that you do a certain thing. You only have to know the pros and cons if we're going to give you a choice. That's what it feels like.
Well, that's all it is. Our well got struck by lightning a year ago. Unfortunately, I have a tank inside the house, and Armando, our local waterman, comes up, hits me for $150. But I just saw a machine that will suck the moisture out of the air, and it'll provide 100 gallons of water a day. And I'm like, okay, because to replace the pump and now the wiring because of the shock, it's going to cost me $25,000. Where for about $19,000, I put this machine out.
That's
it
smart.
sucks moisture from the air, and it sits there and gives me up to 100 gallons of water a day.
Well,
there's just the two of us a day.
Dang.
And I'm like, well, there's just the two of us. And I'm like, our Olympic-sized swimming pool's been filled in, so I'm not really worried about it too much. But I mean,
but
there's
Dwayne,
all
you
the
made
technology
you
out there.
made a decision based on economics, right? You didn't make the decision based on any sort of fear mongering or mandate from the man.
No, not at all. It's like with the Viper, I somehow spun a bearing at 10,000 RPM and I had to rebuild the motor because I wanted to. And, we went through everything, bought 24 pistons, did everything. And, we fine-honed everything, all the fuel injectors. I bought multiples where everything is balanced. And the car that ran bad had, decent emissions. I'm now getting 21 miles to the gallon highway, and that's in a V10. And I'm able to do that at 80 miles an hour all day long, where before I got about 11 miles per gallon. But nobody's going to sit there and spend the time I did and spend 3 times the money on parts to put together the perfect engine.
No, but you chose to do that. So the other question is, if the state were to, where you are you in Jeffco? Or are you further out than that?
No, I'm in Teller.
Okay, so I don't know if Teller's in this metro area air quality.
No.
But
we're
if
west
they
of the
did,
Springs, about 80
and by the way,
miles.
Teller is still freedom. You have maybe one of the best sheriffs in the state of Colorado there. But if Teller were to say, we're going to ban gas powered, whatever, or whatever that thing is, are you the kind of person that would then, whether it was the right decision or wrong decision, push back against it because it's this government mandate thing?
Well, it's already being pushed by the governor, so technically it's going through the state.
Yeah.
And it's only northern Colorado right now that's being chastised for gas mowers.
Well, no. This air quality control recommendation that came out Friday from these folks, if adopted, would affect, here's the counties: Denver, Douglas, Jefferson, Arapahoe, Adams, Boulder, Broomfield, Larimer, Weld. I mean, that's the Front Range.
No, pretty much. I mean, from Monument on down, we're not affected. The thing of it is that people will sit there and just follow along blindly. And it's like in Cuba where it's like, oh, we have a revolution started. Let's go, Julio. Wait, they're giving us rice cookers. Shut up. Let's go ahead and go. We're getting different little toys, but we're all sitting there being compliant. Nobody's fighting back.
I don't know if that's true, because we're having the conversation right here. We're sort of fighting back right here in our own way by pushing this thing out.
No, you're not fighting back. You're discussing.
Well, but isn't that the first step? Don't you have to educate people about what's going on? I mean, I'm as mad as hell and I'm not going to take this anymore. Isn't that part of the process of getting ready to fight back, is you put the word out there and you show people a way, that kind of thing?
Well, my service time in Central America, when I heard people whispering, going, gringo, what about revolution? And I had to sit there and listen while going, I want to endorse this, but I'm really not allowed to personally sit there and say anything. However, if you guys go at it and then have Guatemala come in and do all the fun stuff in the 80s, it was a wonderful experience in time. But I don't want our country to go to that level. I don't. I think we need to sit there and say, common sense wise, hell no, we won't mow without gas mowers.
On that note, Dwayne, you can't end any better than hell no, we won't mow. 303-696-1971 is, of course, Dwayne's line. Bert, I promise you stay on. I got to cut away for a quick break. I promise I bring you on and we'll give you as much of this time that's left as possible when we come back. Billy, can you tell me before we cut out, how much time do we have in ad stuff and all the good stuff?
I think it's about 27 minutes.
So we're back at like 9 or something like that. Should I do a live read or just cut loose?
Oh, let's do a live read, because that actually makes us money versus other stuff.
See, Billy, you're using your off-air voice on air, and I think people don't. This is how the sausage gets made right here on air. Listen, speaking of sausage getting made, you're going to probably do it in your kitchen and cook it in your kitchen. That's one of the places where people congregate the most. It's the most eye-catching part of your house, at least in modern homes. It's where the family gathers. If you want to upgrade that thing, the first bestest thing to do, the thing that probably takes the least amount of effort. I mean, look, you could do cabinets, and that's cool and all, but man, would that take a big lift. The countertop, that is a way to beautify your home. And frankly, with the real estate market the way it is right now, there aren't a lot of good reasons to not consider upgrading the interior of your home. And if you're going to do that, you want to call our buddy Mitch Floria at The Art of Granite. Now, the website is easy to get to. It's just 4 words strung together. There's some T's in there, like The Art of Granite. There's 3 T's in The Art of Granite.com. Check it out. He'll give you the selection that's online there. What he won't tell you, I think, online, and I'm going to tell you, is if you do a deal with Mitch, and you will want to do a deal with Mitch, this guy is the kind of guy that looks you in the eye, shakes your hand, and delivers. If you go down to his showroom and you meet him and see all the things that he has in person, you're walking away with a countertop. Hell, even if you don't need one, you're probably like, I think I'll buy one for the future. You got to check out Mitch because he is all about customer service, quality, craftsmanship, all the big stuff. And if you say you're a 710 listener, you listen to the George Show, he throws in the bathroom countertop for free. Or if you're just doing the one bathroom, he'll throw in the sink for free. He wants to sweeten the pot for you because he shares your views, your values on so many different things, especially related to the economy and prettifying your home. So I would call him at 303-386-5919. Don't wait, 303-386-5919, 303-386-5919. That's Mitch Floria at theartofgranite.com. Tell him I sent you there. Tell him that. You'll be thrilled that you did. When we come back, Bert, anybody else calling at 303-696-1971 and the text, George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. Yeah, we've done it. We've talked ourselves out of time to take Bert, but Bert said he's going to try to hang on. I want to hear from you as well, as Bert, when we come back over the top of the hour. How are you pushing back against the man when the man shows up to tell you how you're supposed to live your life and the choices you're supposed to make with the products you purchase? This gas mower thing is kind of pissing me off. I think I'm going to go buy another one over the weekend. Stick around. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. Hey-o, halfway through the Tuesday 7-Eleven show. It is National Slurpee Day. I think you can go in and get a small Slurpee for free, or if you're in Denver, you can steal any amount of Slurpees also for free. So good luck in 7-Eleven and celebrating. You know what? While you're in there and you're stealing a Slurpee, why not take a whole bunch of other things too? I don't know if 7-Eleven has the King Soopers, we don't care if you steal from us policy, but why not give it a shot? I'm not giving you legal advice. I'd just love to hear how it turns out. And you can call us at 303-696-1971 to tell us how it turned out. We are talking about this, and it started with a call from Joan from Lakewood about this effort by Lakewood to try to outlaw gas stoves, gas everything. And then there's this report that came out. There was a vote of the air quality, we want to dominate your life with our decisions committee that said that by 20, they've voted to forward on to whoever the decision-making body is, probably someone else you and I can't influence, an end to the sale of gas mowers and smaller gas equipment stuff. I don't know why they wouldn't ban the larger gas-powered equipment stuff unless they think that those are more likely to impact the illegal alien population because they would lose those jobs because the electric stuff is more expensive. I don't know. But nonetheless, that was the conversation that we had. And I wanted to push back hard on the idea that government is going to tell me whether or not I can purchase a gas mower. So I said, hey, I would go to Wyoming, which also, by the way, sells the fireworks that we all enjoy in our neighborhoods. Nobody's buying those in Colorado, and yet they seem to be everywhere. Just as an aside, folks, the thing that 9 News put out about, hey, dime out your neighbor for the illegal fireworks, isn't this the same news organization, and by the way, the same state that says we're not going to share information with the federal government about illegal aliens among us? Isn't this the same society and culture that the left advocates should cancel you if you were to dime out somebody for being here illegally or something like that? I mean, that's where we're at. Fireworks bad. You want to show your patriotism by blowing off your fingers? Well, we're going to dime you out to the authorities. You want to harbor, employ, or otherwise encourage illegal aliens in the state of Colorado? Well, you're a bastard. That's what it is. So, I got a text, and I'm going to get to Bert here one second. A text that says, I love to hear law and order, in quotes, conservatives state clearly that they pick and choose which laws they will obey. Every law tells people how they must live their lives. Conservatives have no problem telling other people what they may do in their private lives. Just look at the laws being passed in red states. All depends on whose ox is being gored. Well, this isn't about obeying the law. If the law says you can't sell gas mowers in the state of Colorado, well, okay, they're not going to be sold. What it can't tell me and what it won't tell me is what I can't buy when it comes to gas-powered mowers. So my pushback is going to be to do exactly what I said I would do, and that is to exercise my freedom of choice. I said, which law is being broken? And they said, you stated clearly that if gas-powered lawnmowers are against the law in Colorado, you'll drive to a state where they are legal to purchase. That's not true. I said, if they're illegal to sell here, I'll go buy them where they're legal to be bought. Yeah, I can't say, that's right. The law is not going to say that you can't have, not yet anyway. And then I said, tell me, ever drink underage, ever smoke weed before it was legal? And the answer is absolutely, but I was not on air every day decrying others who disobey the law and talking about how they ought to be severely punished. Listen, it depends. I'll be honest, it depends on what the law is. I'm not advocating for violating any of those laws. I'm not. I mean, I guess that's the great irony with this whole thing. I'm a guy who has spent his youth and adolescence, his adulthood, his young adulthood, being the fly in the ointment and pushing back. I was the guy that was the disruptor in class in high school, no doubt about it. And I've found myself in 2 different professions that are wedded to the idea of law and order. One, the military, the other one, the criminal justice sector on the good guy side of things, which is the prosecutor side of things. That is true, but that is similar in this way. It provides you a choice. The choice should be you cannot steal and do just about anything you want, or you can steal and then you should go to jail. So this idea that every single violation of the law ought to be severely punished, texter, that's garbage. I've never said that. But if you want to know the truth, then I'm going to continue to cling to this. You steal, you lose your liberty. You steal a candy bar, you go to jail for a day. You steal a car, you go to jail for a week or 2 weeks or 30 days or whatever. We can debate that. But this isn't the same thing. This isn't about like criminal behavior. This is about by regulation, I think, and by some other non-criminal law banning the sale of gas-powered mowers to achieve some debatable, arguable, better good for the community. I, of course, would not advocate for selling gas lawnmowers when you shouldn't, but I understand going to Wyoming and buying them where they're legal, and I can have them down here. The same thing with fireworks, man. There's no hypocrisy there. I'm not telling you to violate the law. I'm saying we should have more choice in the process. So I invited Texter to call in. They haven't, but here's the number just in case: 303-696-1971. Take some courage. Here's the proof. Bert from Aurora, you're on 710. What do you think?
Well, first of all, I own an electric chainsaw and love it. I don't have, due to infrequent use, I don't have to have an upper body workout trying to get it started.
But it feels good, doesn't it, when you do that? You're working your lats. You're doing that lat pull, you know?
Yeah, we'll call it that.
Yeah. So but, you like the electric one. Did you buy it because it was easier to operate, or what was the motivation? Was it cheaper than the gas mower?
No, chainsaw.
Chainsaw. Sorry.
Yeah, because I don't use a chainsaw but once or twice a year, you know, when we lose branches on our trees.
Or the neighbors get out of control.
Yeah. And, you know, it wouldn't start all the time because it sat. I don't have to deal with, is the choke on? Is the choke off? Does it need more gas? Oh, shoot, I just flooded it. You know, I charge the battery, boom, it's working. And I put it away. I don't have to worry about it. So.
Would you feel differently if the government said, I'm not even going to give you the choice, Bert, you are stuck. You only can choose from electric mowers?
Well, you know, I'm with you on that. However, I had, and this is the next topic I wanted to bring up.
Yeah, tell us.
I'm in real estate, and I was having a conversation with a city official about mandating AstroTurf on all new construction because of our water shortage. And that city official brought something up to me that I did not even consider. And they said, until studies are done as to the chemicals that are emitted into our gutters and our sewer system due to the rains, they're not going to do that. So, because I thought, you know, front yard, because I've thought about it.
Yeah.
I don't, you know, my kids are grown. They didn't play in the front yard to begin with. AstroTurf the front, and I don't have to mow it.
I like that too, but I didn't realize that there was a risk of chemical runoff from the turf.
Well, I mean, you think about it, what's it made of? Yeah. Who knows?
Fake grass? No, I don't know. Yeah, plastic. Someone put up here, and I think this is right. A lot of, if not all of plastics are petroleum-based products. So I guess it comes from that.
So, but anyway, just my 2 cents worth, and you have a good week.
Hey, Bert, thanks for the call, man. Thanks for the patience, too, and hanging on hold. I love Bert for doing that. 303-696-1971. Trying to get a superstar in the area of energy on here. His name's Dan Haley. He is the big time guy for COGA. That's the Colorado Oil and Gas Association. If we can get him on, we will. I want to talk about some of this natural gas stuff that's going on. But I also want to continue to read the text and talk to you about this notion that the man is going to step in and dictate to you your choices. Maybe, here's Dan right here. We might get him on around 9. I'm going to say, sounds good, let's do it. This is how the sausage gets made, folks. And by the way, if you're a meat-free person, sausage is a meat product that is super delicious. And yes, it comes from animals. Sounds good. Let's do it. And I just hit send on that bad boy right there. So we'll have Dan on at 9. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about regarding this issue, though, is that this growing, and I know Dwayne from Divide called up to say, hey, man, it's good to see you finally come around. I've always been this way. I've always been the contrarian guy that if you tell me I can't do something, I will try to find the legal way to push back on it. So for instance, that story I told about Boulder, where they had National Meat Off Day, which is just such an unfortunate choice of words. And my buddies and I went out and we got a bunch of steaks and a bunch of potatoes and grilled them up so that the smell wafted over the field as people were walking to CU, because they're just so self-righteous, man. So many of these CU students go Buffs. that was a choice. That wasn't legal or illegal. I was trying to be cajoled into doing something, guilted into doing something. And I pushed back on it. I would do the same thing here. You tell me I can't own a gas mower. By God, I'm going to go buy one, even if I don't have a lawn. This idea that these bureaucrats and these elected officials are somehow smarter than you and I about these things. And I've heard that, folks. I've heard people say, well, we should leave it up to the experts in the legislature. And I'm like, those are two words that should never, ever be used together. They're not experts in anything except being in the legislature. They don't know anything more than you and I do. They just get lobbied harder and given more targeted information to try to steer them to a certain outcome. But I don't think that they're smarter. Here's another text. Who cares if you break the law? Weiser will let you out anyway. I don't know if Phil will let you out, but his ineptitude in fighting the appellate battle means any conviction that you might get will be overturned. So there's that. So, between Denver and the AG's office, if you're looking for a place to commit a crime, it looks like Denver's your safest bet. Here's one. Tell Billy you don't have to tear down your mower every something. Got one. I've done nothing but put gas and oil in my riding mower. I've done nothing for 5 years. Both work like champs every time. And I know I don't go to the emails all the time, but here was another email very similar to that. That got to us. Here it is right here from our friend Rob. Billy spends 3 hours going through the mower each spring. Billy, just run it out of gas each fall and you'll save yourself 3 hours each year. Been doing it for 50 years with no problems, unless you forget to. For what it's worth, I do use some battery-powered yard tools, blower and weed trimmer, where they work well enough. They're convenient, but I usually get out the gassers to do big jobs, which is what Billy said, especially where I need more power and more endurance. Don't force me to use what doesn't work well enough. Let me decide. Amen, Bob. Amen. That is exactly right. He's got it right. Don't force me to make the right decision. Let me make the right decision. Phone lines are full. We're going to get to them here. It's 303-696-1971. This what you don't know is that we have the ability, someone does, not me, to change the way things show up on the call screen. And this one says Normal Joe from Arvada. Joe, how are you?
Normal Joe. I'm Normal Joe.
Yeah. Well, congratulations, by the way, because that means there's one that's not.
Right. Well, Semper Fi, buddy. I'll just say that first, so you know where I'm coming from.
I got you.
Yes, sir. Army school, though. What's so stupid about this whole thing is these people that are pushing all this, renewables and electric. How are all these batteries being charged? It's not from wind. It's not from solar, right? It's from extractive energy. Is that correct?
That's what it feels like to me. That? Unless we're going to go nuclear, it's got to come from somewhere. Wind and solar can help.
Yeah, nuclear is.
But we're still doing
nuclear
coal.
Is great.
We're still doing coal.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. It's all our, wind and solar is not going to run a refrigerator. It's not going to heat your house. It's not going to cool your house. And these people that are pushing all this, they don't realize that. It's just insane.
I think what you mean is it's not going to do it perpetually. Like it's not as reliable as the fossil fuels. And I agree with you on that. But it can. Solar energy can help.
Wind and solar has their place, but solar can run an air conditioner, the kind of wattage that is involved to cool your home. No, it can't. There's not a wind or solar unit out there that can cool your house. They're simply not.
How far would you go to protest one of these mandated outcomes by the government? And I'm not talking a law that says it's illegal to run a gas mower. That's one thing. But hey, you can't buy a gas mower in the Denver metro area. Would you travel to a place where they had them to get them? Or would you be like, oh, hell, I'm just going to do the electric thing?
No, I would travel to a place where I could get one. And additionally, a few of your callers were talking about difficulty starting their chainsaws, weed eaters, whatever. I'm going to give out a good tip. So I use my chainsaw regularly. I have a wood stove and I camp a lot and stuff. So for the chainsaw and my weed eater, the ticket is buy the ethanol-free gasoline because what makes gas go bad is the ethanol. I mean, gas goes bad with the ethanol. No, seriously, within like 3 or 4 months. So either that or use that fuel treatment that's stable. You know, I'm not putting that out there, but yeah, the ethanol-free fuel for your 2-cycle motors. It's 2 pulls and it's running.
You know, that was Billy's motto in college. 2 pulls and he's running. Normal Joe, thank you so much, man, for that tip. Normal Joe's line is open, 303-696-1971. Going to Chris. She wants to talk about GastroTurf. No, gas and AstroTurf. Chris, what's going on?
Hi. Well, I have an electric mower, but I also only have one hand. But I would go to Wyoming to get one.
Why? Why would you do that?
Because I don't like being told what to do.
I don't like being told what to do either. And that's the thing is that.
And that's so un-American. It's just retarded.
Well, I don't know about that, but it is definitely un-American. It's this idea. And the difference with the criminal law is that the criminal law also offers you a choice and there are consequences for that choice. But this isn't about committing a crime. And for those that are going to say, but it's about the greater good, George. It's about the environment.
Good. And they're the ones that want to plant plastic grass. What do you think makes the oxygen that we're breathing? The trees, the grass, and you take all that stuff away and you put concrete and plastic there, you ain't gonna have air.
I just this is a broader discussion than this, but this is the most recent current eventsy thing. But they're talking about things like opposing the widening of Pena Boulevard, which is that straightaway that gets you, sort of straightaway that gets you to DIA. And they don't want to widen it because they're like, we should be forcing people onto the highly ineffective, always in the red RTD and usually not working. That's right. We should be forcing people on the trains.
I have to do public transportation all the time. And I'll tell you, RTD is not running at the best.
No, and they never have been. And it's unlikely that they will because they're government operated organization. But the broader point of this is those people, those elitists in Denver that see Denver as the end all be all and can look past the syringes and the homeless and the stolen cars.
Gas guzzlers.
Well, until they get stolen.
Yeah. And, they're not taking public transportation because if there were, the RTD would be crowded.
That's a good point. Some of them are too, right? Like, so there are folks in Denver who they don't care what impact there is on, let's say, folks that live in Parker or Castle Rock or Boulder.
Or Golden.
Golden. You can go drive to a light rail station, park your car, and then take the train in. And it's like, well, wait a minute, that doesn't work for everybody. That impacts my freedom, which is I want to come and go as I choose, not when the government decides to operate a train or a bus. But this is all about dictating an outcome to you.
Or if the bus drivers bother to show up, like the
Yep, that happens too.
It's a horrible system, but a lot of people are stuck on that system.
They are stuck on that system. Now, if they came out and said it is a crime to operate a gas-powered mower, I wouldn't do it just because that's a different kind of thing. Even though I would push back against it, I would use it as a vehicle to protest and to campaign against the people that put such a ridiculous law into place. This is different than that. This is like, we're just going to take away a choice from you because we think you're too stupid to make the right choice. We're not going to educate you. We're not going to inform you. We're not going to let the economy help make the right choice. We're just going to dictate to you, you're too stupid to buy the right thing. So we'll tell you what you can't buy. It just feels like that.
Gas in the house because it's safer and cleaner.
I like natural gas too. I mean, Chris, thank you for the phone call. I appreciate it. You made some great points. Chris's line is open at 303-696-1971. We've got another Joe on the line. I promise if you stick around, we're going to get you on the air, but not until I talk to you about my teeth. Yeah, that's right. You can't really recycle teeth. I don't think so. But if you had a question about that, the only place you should go with any questions about the health of your mouth is Twin Aspen Dental Center. Doctors Richter and Snyder, they are the bomb. I have been treated by both of them. And by treated, I mean, I've gone in there for the cleanings and they root around in there and try to find all this stuff. Outside of a tooth that I have that's like completely turned around, like 180 degrees. I don't know what the term for that is. So I asked Dr. Richter, I'm like, hey, what do you call it when a tooth is like completely turned around so the inside is on the outside? And he goes, a turned around tooth. where the inside is on the outside. So it turns out there's no Latin phrase for it, but these guys just know stuff. I love the staff. I love how calm they are, and it calms you down if you're worked up about going to see the dentist. They are also people that are invested in the idea that getting you the dental health care that you need, they're not going to let the dollar stop it. So if you have trouble with the insurance thing, or you just don't have any at the moment, they have an opportunity for you through their own little program that they set up, a plan that they set up that provides you with the twice-a-year dental cleanings, the access to emergency care, all the discounted stuff that you might do. They do the big heavy lifting, whether it's the implants or the bridges or the fill in the blankages. These are folks that are dedicated to being better stewards, I think, of your health in the community. There are a lot of big box store type dentists out there. I'm sure they do a wonderful job. These folks just don't do it that way. They're much more like a small town dentist office with all the top shelf talent and the top shelf equipment that's out there. Go to them, check them out, get your teeth cleaned there, and then reach back out to me and tell me how it was. My guess is you're going to say it's the most awesome experience ever. 303-841-7466. 303-841-7466. Call them and make that appointment. Go in there. You got to get your teeth cleaned anyway, right? Just take a break from your current dentist. Give these folks a shot. My guess is you're staying with Twin Aspen Dental. You can also check them out at twinaspendentalcenter.com, twinaspendentalcenter.com, or you can go drive down there at about Stroh and Parker Road, so easily located. When we come back, Joe, and everybody, and these texts that are coming in, 303-696-1971. It's George Brauchler on The George Show, 710 KNUS. Holy long break. Big Head Todd and the Monsters and George Brauchler right back with you here on 710 KNUS. Going to some of the texts and the emails before we get to Joe and Ron. Here's one from our friend Joe out of Littleton. I had to laugh at this. What will they ban next? Gas snowblowers? I tried an electric snowblower once and returned it. It stalled about half a foot from my garage in 4 inches of snow. Some of the conversations here on the Rumble have taken off since last I checked. That is a mistake for me because there's a lot of stuff here. My neighbor has an electric mower, a big fancy Ego. It takes him twice as long to mow his lawn as it does to mow mine. That's assuming he has batteries charged and doesn't have to stop to charge. Now, I received another text from a buddy who says, I switched to an electric lawnmower 2 years ago. I have an Ego. I love it. It folds up to put in the corner and cuts just as well as a gas one. It has cruise control, no gas cans or engine oil for a mower in the garage anymore. I will not give up the natural gas appliances in the house. God save the Queen. So any chance to throw a punch at the president, it's always right there. Here's some other texters. Buy goats. Oh, it's interesting, too. My neighbor has an electric one, and he said he has to go over it twice because it doesn't pick up the grass like it should, and it's a good one. So glad to hear you talk about lawnmowers and trying to shove this down our throats now. Way to go, George. Gas problems? Another text, question mark. STA bill, gas additive, expensive, a few drops, any gas-powered engine starts up. Let's get right to the phone lines. Joe from Arvada, you're on 710. What do you think, Joe from Arvada?
Well, hi, George.
Hello, sir.
I mow my parents' lawn. My dad was the best cop in Aurora for most of his life.
Oh,
well, he also was a parks policeman and a sheriff deputy.
Oh, that's great.
A Denver sheriff deputy. It's the least I could do. He's got a bum knee, and I go over there and mow the lawn just recently. He used to do it. Yeah. But the mower went out, and I hired I think it was Ron's small engine, a little plug for them. They showed up with a van. I didn't have time to overhaul, like Billy said, and they did it right in front of my parents' house. Yeah, I paid a little bit for it, but you know what? It was well worth it. It started like a champion. They did a great job. So this brings me to my quote.
Yeah.
What country can preserve its liberties if their rulers are not warned from time to time that their people preserve the spirit of resistance?
Is that a quote or a question?
It's a quote. You have any ideas who it was?
Who the quote is?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't.
Thomas Jefferson.
I've heard of him.
And the reason that I bring this up is because this whole question you're making is, yes, I am abnormal because I'm not asking why is government going to not allow me to do this? No, that isn't the question we should be asking. Why aren't we standing up and telling government not to have any business whatsoever and telling us what kind of stove or what kind of gas mower we can use? That is not what government is for, and it's a lack of education that is the problem.
What about Billy's point, though, about the lead paint and the asbestos and all that stuff? Isn't that legitimate?
That's something that the people determine. Remember, it's the government by the people, for the people, of the people.
I know,
but the people of the government, by the government, for the government.
The process isn't dissimilar. Like I find credibility in Billy's points that, listen, we have like an FDA, and while they do things I don't want them to do, they do a lot of good things that I do. Like they make sure that they set standards so that you and I aren't buying spoiled meat or over pesticized, fruits and all these other things that might make us sick. I'm okay with that. I just want there to be a significant checkup.
Well, you also love the judiciary and the Department of Justice.
What does that mean? I love the judiciary
and injustice. The Department of Injustice.
I love them.
Joe, yeah, I'd like to give a shameless plug.
Hold on,
for
Joe. Were you
Liberty, and Levin?
Were you happy with the Dobbs decision?
Well,
It's a yes or no, buddy. You can either be happy with it or not.
If you're going to ask me about all the minutia of decisions, am I happy with this decision?
It's just the last huge
one. Am I happy with this decision? Am I unhappy with that decision? No, the fact is that the majority of the judiciary is corrupt.
Oh my God.
That's the problem.
Joe, based on what, man? How did we get to the corrupt judiciary?
Based on observation. In fact, let me just. Huh. Yes, that's right.
So you're talking about Clarence Thomas? You think Clarence Thomas is
let me ask you a question. Do you ever watch Life, Liberty, and Levin?
Not ever.
I understand. And I would challenge you to watch the last one. There's a 15-minute synopsis on YouTube which explains why, yes, Donald Trump's case should be dropped.
Oh, dear God. Buddy,
and
how did we get to
so
Trump
that you
from
can
mowers?
Understand it. Even a lawyer can understand it.
How did we get from Trump or from mowers to Trump, man? How did you get us back there?
It's a matter of resistance. We have to resist this government that is overreaching its bounds into our freedom.
Yeah.
That's right.
What about Trump resisting the election results? Is it the same thing?
You mean the faux election results?
That's right. Clearly, the fraud was so rampant the Democrats won an overwhelming majority of the Senate. Oh, wait, what? Never mind. They didn't. Nonetheless, on the mower thing.
You mean they stole a majority of the Senate? Yes, they stole.
Well, they don't have a majority of the Senate. They don't. Have
yes,
that.
They do.
They don't have. They didn't steal the majority of the Senate, man. Some of those.
Yes, they did.
Hold on. But you and I can't have a discussion where you have no facts to back it up and you just have this emotional deep-seated belief.
Carrie Lake can school you like a red-haired stepchild or blonde-haired stepchild, I guess.
Why are you so opposed to red-haired stepkids?
I bet you were a red-haired stepchild, weren't you?
No, it was a dirty blonde, but now it's white. I'd take red-haired, Joe. But can we get back to the mower thing? Because the point that you brought up is one that I don't want to just suggest that every single thing government does is wrong. That would be a formula for anarchy. But when it comes to things like lead paint or asbestos, don't you think that government has a role to play there?
I want to return to the main point. Who is the government? We are the government.
I get it, but isn't that the same government that's saying we don't want you to use gas-powered this or that?
That's where you're missing it. It is not the same government.
It's a different government.
These are bureaucrats that have wrested control from the people. When somebody is telling the people, you can't have a gas stove, you can't harvest natural gas, you can't harvest oil.
Do you think we
you can't
voted
do
on
this,
asbestos?
you can't do that. That is not government's position. Government is supposed to.
Do you think lead paint and asbestos were things on the ballot that we voted for?
I would
Those
agree
were
with you
agency decisions.
I would agree with you. We shouldn't let children die from lead paint. That's not the point.
Do you think
we should let people die
decision?
from starvation because they can't use a gas engine?
Joe, I'm asking you if you think that elected representatives passed those rules about lead paint and asbestos. Or do you think that was government agencies?
Some of them, but some of them are not passed. They are regulated by bureaucrats and by judiciaries, by judges that are ruling incorrectly. Well, let's not forget that
Who says they're ruling incorrectly?
Let's not forget that 1/3 of the government is the judiciary.
That's not true.
Hello.
That is not true. That may be one of three branches.
What are the
that
three
is not
branches?
Okay. Yeah, that's not
one of the
1/3
three
of
branches.
My man. That's
At least you're admitting that it's one of the branches of government.
Well, admitting it, it's a fact. It's not a thing to be admitted. But when you say it's 1/3 of government, dude, it's not a civics question. When you say 1/3 of government, it's not. The executive branch is far and away the largest portion of government.
No, it's way bigger right now. The judiciary is way bigger than it ever should be. It's way stronger than it ever should be. Yes, it is.
You disagree with Marbury versus Madison?
Well, I disagree with this. We shouldn't have people walking around in dresses, black robes, deciding what a woman is. Give me a break.
Well, where did they do that?
Did you not forget? We just elected us. There was just a Supreme Court justice that was approved that doesn't know what a woman is, but she's trying to legislate from the bench what a woman is.
Tell me where Ketanji Brown Jackson, she's a Supreme Court Associate Justice. Tell me where she's tried to legislate what a woman is from the bench.
Oh, well, didn't she just disagree with one of the 8-1? Wasn't she one of the disagreeing persons in the? She was the one sore thumb that didn't agree in the last round of decisions. Wasn't she one of the ones that stood that? And
hold on, Joe. You just made a pronouncement that she's legislating from the bench about what a woman is, and then you somehow mealy-mouthed out, wasn't she one of the disagreeing persons from that one case this term? You got to do better than that, man. If you're going to bring the accusation, you got to bring the evidence with it. What do you got?
Well, my point is that her perspective is one from nonsensical, far left, non-American viewpoint, and she should never have been approved as a Supreme Court justice.
Do you know who approved her? Do you know who confirmed her?
I understand the Senate did.
And elected representatives. Isn't that crazy?
No. You know who did it? The deep state did it. You know why? Because they were the ones that pulled the strings to get the Senate as a Democrat body. That's why.
Joe, I'm not sure. Joe, I'm not sure why they don't have a supermajority to pass everything they want, like the 60.
Well, that's probably coming if you keep allowing.
Why didn't they do it last time? Why didn't they do it last time?
People don't stand up and push back.
Why didn't they do it last time? Joe, why didn't they do it last time?
They did. What are you talking about?
Because they don't have 60 votes.
It should have been about 70-30 in the Senate. Unfortunately, it's now 51-49, right?
Buddy, here's what I'm gonna give you a little bit of homework, Joe. Go back and research the last time it was 70-30, one party versus another in the U.S. Senate. Call back, we'll put you on to give us the answer. Thanks for the phone call, Joe. 303-696-1971. I don't know how we got there. I don't know how we got to Ketanji Brown Jackson and some made-up position where she was trying to define what a woman was. I don't know that to be the case. From the mowers and the pushback on the government mandating what you can and can't purchase in terms of lawn care products. But here we are. So listen, Ron's on hold. Ron, I want to take you, but let me do this real quick. Let me cut away for a break so I don't have to only give you a minute. I want to give you more time than that. 303-696-1971 is the number. I want to talk to you about real estate because if you haven't been following this, there's going to be continued increases in the interest rates or the mortgage rates. The average mortgage rate right now is somewhere around 7. In a lot of places, it's north of 7. Now, historically, not horrible, especially if you remember the Carter years. But over the last decade or so, oh, dang, that's a lot. So some people are sitting it out. Some people are trying to get in the game. And what they're discovering is property values, they're not dropping by very much because the inventory is just so low. So how do you navigate these treacherous, when's the right time to strike kind of waters? Well, you call up our friend Gaye Ribble and the Empower Home team at Keller Williams. They're the folks that have done this before. They've been here. They've seen every kind of economy, every kind of real estate market. They can give you a pretty good indication of where it's going and the steps you need to take, one, to get out of your house for top dollar. And they have that because they have all the buyers in waiting. I think Gaye's website is called GayeHasTheBuyers.com, Gaye, GayeHasTheBuyers.com, because she does 14,000 plus buyers waiting for your listing. So they get you a ton of money on average, more than other realtors. They sell twice as fast on average than other realtors. This is just what they bring to the table. I'm not sure why you would call anyone else. Or if you do call someone else, don't make a decision until you call Gaye Ribble and the Empower Home team at 833-301-SOLD, 833-301-SOLD. That's 833-301-SOLD, or check out GayeHasTheBuyers.com. When we come back, Ron, more of the other texts that have come in here, some of them, every time Joe's on from Arvada, and I love the conversation just because Joe's willing to have it in large part too. But there are a lot of texts that come in about Joe, and I don't want to get disparaging of Joe because I appreciate his passion. I also appreciate the fact that he's largely without any facts or any support for his things, but I keep hoping one day he'll show up with some of that stuff, and I will be happy to admit when I was wrong. Joe, I just need you to hear that. I will be happy to admit when I was wrong. But I'm happy to take your text, your calls, 303-696-1971. George Brauchler on the George Road, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. Look, we're running out of time to take the callers, but Ron and the other folks that were calling, and just call back after our next guest. We're going to have Dan Haley. He's the executive director of the Colorado Oil and Gas Association to talk about this gas stove stuff. Kind of feeds nicely into this discussion. Here's some other text. Tennessee Senator Marsha Blackburn asked Justice Jackson to define what a woman is. That's from Eric Manning. Yeah, that's right. And George, he says, Joe is right on point. George, wow, all in caps. First off, Eric, you don't have to capitalize anything to emphasize your point. It sounds crazy enough just in regular old font, but he was wrong. She didn't try to legislate from the bench through any dissenting opinion where she tried to define one that I'm aware of. If you know different, Eric, you can all caps your way back into here and I'll read it online. Everyone wants to save the world, but no one wants to help mom with the dishes. Well, that's interesting too. Listen, a lot more to talk about with this, but we're going to get smarter from a guy who's working on the oil and gas side of things about some of these studies with all of these gas stoves and stuff coming up. His name is Dan Haley. I want you to stick around for him. Good dude, smart dude. We'll all get smarter. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. Welcome back to the last hour of the George Show on 710 KNUS. It has been a lot of gas this morning. At least that's what we've been talking about, whether it's the efforts by the air quality control folks to keep you from using your gas-powered mower, or the natural gas that gets piped into the house to do things like, I don't know, heat stuff, cook stuff, all that. We've been talking about it for a good chunk of the morning. I wanted to bring somebody super smart on to have that conversation. Unfortunately, they weren't available. So instead, I turned to Dan Haley. He's the president and chief executive officer of the Colorado Oil and Gas Association. The things you need to know about Dan are he is a Colorado native, but he drove past Boulder, go Buffs, and past Fort Collins, the Rams, to get his degree from a teeny tiny one-room school called the University of Wyoming. Dan, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me on. And, you know, you can continue to drive up to Wyoming and buy gas-powered lawn equipment if you want.
We talked about that. As a matter of protest, Dan, I think I would do that, by the way, is this whole, you're not allowed to buy anything except electric. It would be like, I told people, it's the same thing with fireworks, right? Like fireworks are outlawed here in Colorado, so we don't have the, oh, no, wait. The thing that took place a block from our house was insane. I presume that was all purchases from Wyoming.
In my neighborhood the other night.
Yeah. Right. I wanted to have you on because you had said you guys had been confronted by a lot of these quote unquote studies that are now, is it just me, Dan, or does it feel like there is a much sharper turn in towards this, let's do away with natural gas? There seems to be a proliferation of stories online and in print about how, you know, being in a house with a natural gas stove is the same thing as wrapping your lips around a chimney or something like that.
Yeah, it's really gotten sharp in the last few years. I mean, 10 years ago, you had environmentalists standing on the steps of the Capitol talking about natural gas being this bridge fuel to an all renewable future. And now they're going straight at it and trying to eliminate its production, eliminate its use, going on the supply side, going on the demand side, using studies to, bolster their claims. And yet continually you'll see on social media, they're not trying to ban your stove. That's a right-wing talking point. And then the next day, there's a story out about somebody banning gas stoves or somebody trying to ban gas stoves. And now, you know, you're looking at lawn and garden equipment, and we can talk about that and the benefits of doing that. But it's definitely an effort coming from sort of this radical environmental movement to get rid of natural gas when that is what is powering our lives in the 21st century.
What do we do with these studies? I mean, is there some truth to the idea that this natural gas stuff is all this bad? Or I presume one of the things Koga does is to bring some reality to all of these arguments that every time you start your car, a bird dies, you know, that kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. So I think it's important to know that there are trade-offs to every single energy source out there. And so we fully discuss those on the oil and natural gas side. And you know, people are more than, you know, to obviously go and research these things on their own. These studies that come out, there's a group called Energy in Depth that actually took a look at the last two studies that have come out on natural gas stoves. And this most recent one, I think it's important to point out to your listeners, when you really delve down into the story and begin to look at how they did the research, you'll find that they sealed off some of the kitchens in plastic tarps. The previous studies,
just like I do at home,
they were all sealed off. They put plastic tarps up around the stove. In this most recent one, not all of them were, but many of them were. Again, that's not how people use their gas stoves. They don't put plastic tarps around their gas stoves. They had benzene measurements in there that were compared to the wrong health standard. The emissions that they found from those gas stoves were actually below California's very stringent health standard. And I think the final thing that's most important to note is the study was funded by a group called the High Tide Foundation, which is a nonprofit that is one of its goals is to ban gas stoves.
What's the move here? Why are we trying to ban gas stoves? Do these people have our best interests at heart, or what's the end game here?
That's a great question. I think there's a belief that we can move to this all renewable future, and that we're going to have electric power everywhere, and it's just not feasible right now. And I think going again back to those trade-offs, it's important to note right now when you're plugging something in, what are you plugging that into at this point?
An outlet.
And is the grid, stable and ready to have all of these things that we're, using electricity for to plug in to the grid? So I think this is really, again, it's about not wanting oil and natural gas to have a future in this country. And it's really unfortunate because the reality of it is you need both of these products for the long foreseeable future. George, we have never had an energy transition ever in the history of mankind. With the exception of whale oil, we continue to use all the same energy sources that we used 100 years ago, 200 years ago. People are still burning wood for heat. People are burning wood for power.
Or out of anger.
Or out of anger. But you continue to just add more sources to the energy mix. We're not going to transition to all renewables tomorrow, next week, 10 years from now. So how do we continue to use this resource and develop it in ways that are cleaner, better, and safer? And we're not going to get there if we're giving people this false choice.
We're talking with Dan Haley. He runs the show over there at COGA. That's the Colorado Oil and Gas Association. There's another, I don't know if it's just a happy follow on from this, like it's a result, but it's not the intended goal. And that is, I think that most oil and gas folks tend to lean right. And they tend to support conservative causes and conservative candidates. This is just me talking. I'm not asking you to endorse this as the head of COGA, but it seems to me that this effort, especially in Colorado, to drive oil and gas out of the state has also the happy coincidence that it also takes away from the interest in organizations and individuals who rely upon oil and gas to want to play here politically. Is that crazy talk?
I don't know that it's crazy talk, but I think it's a cynical ploy if that's what people are after. They're going to end up hurting their constituents. They're going to end up hurting Coloradans and Americans, those that can least afford it, if that's their play. I think, for some people, maybe that is perhaps they're looking at, we can defund, an industry that helps or donates to those candidates. But we have many companies that donate to candidates of all stripes.
True.
We really believe energy should be nonpartisan.
Agreed.
As our former lobbyists used to say, we all freeze at 32 degrees. And so how do we have a conversation that allows us to, have the energy that we need to survive in the 21st century? And again, I'm telling you, the most vulnerable among us are the ones who get hit first. Every time we have policies that don't allow the affordable or don't allow production of affordable and reliable energy.
Do you guys at COGA track the different municipalities or counties that are trying to address this through changes in zoning and other things?
We don't have that. You're talking about just like these green building codes? And
yeah. Like else. Lakewood seems to be leaning that direction.
Yeah, we don't. We primarily focus on the supply side and the production of oil and natural gas and the transportation of it downstream versus the sort of demand side.
Where are we with our natural gas production here in Colorado?
Well, it's in 2019, we had a record year of oil and natural gas production. Ever since then, we have been sort of on the upswing, but it has been a slow and steady upswing. As you know, there has been a ton of new laws and regulations in Colorado that govern every aspect of our industry. And so we have been through a process of a lot of rulemakings and really trying to figure out how we can continue to make this work in Colorado. So I have not looked at production levels in the last couple months, but it was sort of a slow, steady uptick from that high point of 2019 and then a very low point of 2020 when obviously economy shut down because of COVID.
Where does electricity come from, Dan?
It's a great question. A lot of people don't understand really what happens behind that wall socket. In Colorado right now, you get a lot of electricity from natural gas and coal. There's a great app that I would encourage your listeners to download called Electricity Maps. And you can look anywhere in the world, almost real time. There's a couple hour lag time to find out where you're getting electricity from. On some days in Colorado, when it's very sunny or the wind is blowing, up to 50% of that energy could be renewable. But when the sun goes down and the wind stops blowing, your energy is provided by coal and natural gas. There was a cold snap in January where I monitored that for about 72 hours. Almost all of your power, keeping you alive, keeping you warm, was provided by coal and natural gas.
When you look at where we're at with the coal part of production out here in Colorado, one, how is it doing? And two, what percentage, I know you say it fluctuates based on it, but what percentage on an annual basis of our electricity generation do you think comes from coal?
I don't know. I don't have that figure exactly, and it all depends on where you live. Everybody has a different power company in Colorado, so some may rely more on coal than perhaps, say, Excel, which has been adding more renewables, using more natural gas in recent years. But it continues to be an important part of our grid because it is reliable and it has been affordable. It is a workhorse, as is natural gas. Natural gas is cleaner than coal. So I would argue we should just be displacing that coal wherever we can with clean burning natural gas here in the Rockies. Coal use globally had been on the decline until COVID hit. And then you saw last year, 2022, the world used more coal than it's ever used before.
Why is that?
It's kind of a long story. It involves Russia, Ukraine, countries going too quickly off of nuclear, going too quickly off of oil, natural gas, relying too heavily on renewables, which couldn't support the grid, and they needed coal to help create a grid. Also, China continues to build a new coal plant, something like every other week.
Good grief.
To power its economy, to create all the goods and services that we want in this country. George, that's the thing that nobody ever talks about. We can do all these things in Colorado, pass all these rules, require you to use these different things. But until we look at what's happening in China, in India, until we stop asking them to make all of our stuff for us, this problem doesn't go away. It eventually blows right back into Colorado. And we have an ozone issue in this state. A lot of that is blowing in from other states and other countries. So we're punting our environmental issues to another part of the planet that we don't see.
We're talking with Dan Haley. He is the head of all things COGA. That's the Colorado Oil and Gas Association. Now, I know you're not going to speak for the organization on these questions, but I want to ask you, Dan Haley, guy who rejected higher education from his home state. Do you have a gas-powered mower, electric-powered things? Have you at all given some thought to this move now by the air quality gurus to ban the sale of these gas-powered items?
Sure. So we have not taken a position on that as an organization, as I said, but I have a gas-powered lawnmower, but I do have an electric trimmer, whatever that's called, weed whacker.
Yeah.
And I bought an electric leaf blower a couple years ago, and just to test it out, see what it's like. And it's cool technology. It starts up whenever you need it. You don't have to worry about, mixing oil or gas or anything else. But it runs about 15, 20 minutes and dies. And then I plug it in for 4 or 5 hours and I use it again, or however long it takes. Or I fire up my old gas-powered, leaf blower. So there are limitations to all of these different technologies out there. But those old 2-stroke mowers or motors where you put oil and gas in it do contribute to ozone. The state believes about 2.5 parts per billion come from those lawn and leaf equipment. And so that's what they're trying to do. Is they're trying to bring the ozone number down in Colorado. And the unfortunate part of this is so much of it is naturally occurring or blows in from other states. There's very little of it we actually can control here in the state, but the government continues to try to control it either through regulations and demands on oil and gas, or now through lawn and leaf.
Well, so is that a way of saying that, look, even if tomorrow everybody stopped using gas-powered 2-stroke motors, Billy says he has a 2.5-stroke. I don't know what that means, but mowers, that would have a negligible impact on the amount of ozone that is in Colorado?
If everybody stopped using it tomorrow, yeah, it would be 2.5 parts per billion. I don't know if that's negligible, but the real issue here is the federal government standards have gotten so low, or high, I guess, the number has gotten low on what we're supposed to achieve, that every Coloradan could disappear tomorrow, and we may not hit that federal standard for ozone.
Oh my God.
Because of what's naturally occurring and what blows in from other states. That fresh pine scent you smell up in the mountains, smells like, fresh, beautiful. That creates ozone.
What?
Trees are part of the ozone problem. And so it's important to understand, again, we have a blog on our website, coga.org, that your listeners can go to, that explains ozone. It explains how much oil and gas contributes to that. And then again, what's naturally occurring just because we live in Colorado.
So I think what I hear Dan Haley saying is get rid of the trees. Is that Koga's official position? Because we could make news right here. Koga wants to see an end to trees.
We love the trees. We love the trees. But again, it's about these realistic conversations that we just don't have as a state or as a country when government picks winners and losers. When they decide we want all renewables, we want all electric schools or whatever, versus, okay, if we do that, what are we doing? We're plugging it into a coal plant. Does that coal plant pollute more? Where are we getting these lithium batteries from? What's the mining like to create a lithium battery, whether for an electric car or for my lawn and leaf blower? Where do those emissions go? We don't have those conversations in the state.
Well, we're not. I don't even know if you can recycle lithium ion batteries. I don't know where they go to die. You know,
we're going to have a bunch of them here pretty quick. There's a story on, I think, Axios this morning I saw about now you suddenly have all these EVs that are piling up at dealerships because they're making so many because they believe the demand is there, but it's really not there.
One of the things we could do to increase that demand, of course, is to drive up the cost of gas or to, increase this. And let me ask you about this too. And I don't know that Koga has a position, but I'd be interested in your thoughts. One of the things we've talked about revenue raising that would also impact sort of this move, if you will, towards EVs is to move away from a gas tax and move towards the miles driven thing. Have you ever had any thoughts on that?
Yeah, we certainly don't talk about that at Koga, but I think it's a vehicle miles traveled tax or something like VMCs, I think that's what that's called. I think they're going to have to move to something like that if you have more electric vehicles and also bikes and e-bikes and everybody else that are utilizing the roadways need to find some way to pay for that if you're not going to be, have the gas tax.
If you are suggesting that cyclists have to pay something towards the roads they use, you just got yourself canceled, Dan. You are done. There are parts of Denver and Boulder right now.
Roads, I assume there's an impact there.
I'm sure there is for all that stuff. Dan Haley, all things Koga, man. Thanks for making time in your morning to chat with us about this.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Anytime. That was Dan Haley. He is the president and CEO of the Colorado Oil and Gas Association. Really, the one big blemish on his background is the fact that he blew off higher education in Colorado to go up to God's country in Wyoming and become a cowboy. But he came back here, so that's good stuff. I always learn something from Dan. It's good to get that other perspective rather than just tuning into, whatever you get on the televisions these days and online through the Denver Post and whatnot. Anyway, happy to take your calls on this. There's some other stuff I want to talk about too that's in the news. I don't know if you know this, by the way. This isn't our topic. All-Star game tonight up in crime-ridden Seattle. Hopefully the players will make it out of there alive because they're all of our all-stars. Before I cut away, I want to tell you about a way to get rid of some pain. One of them might be to move out of Denver, as so many people are choosing to do. The other is to pick up the phone and call our friends at QC Kinetix, and you call them because you have joint pain and you want the joint pain to go the way of the dodo. And that's what happens when you have the hip, the knee, the joint, the neck, the back, whatever it is. You call QC Kinetix. They don't make the pain go away over the phone. They give you an option to make the pain go away rather than going under the knife to get cut open by some super skilled, I'm sure super smart orthopedic surgeon that's going to tell you things like you need to have rehab. You run the risk of exposure to infection and all that. You don't need any of that stuff with QC Kinetix because all they're doing is putting a needle in you. And that needle contains you in it. It's called regenerative medicine. And that's what they do. They've been doing it border to border, coast to coast in the U.S. for a while now with great success. And they want to make their local medical folks available to answer your questions. So all you have to do, one of two things, you could do both. You could start with QC, those are letters. Kinetix starts with a K, ends with an X, qckinetix.com. Check them out online. But don't let that be the end of your investigation here. Pick up the phone and call them at 303-900-8986, 303-900-8986, 303-900-8986, and ask them, what do you do? How do you use me to fix me? Ask them about downtime. They'll say, there really isn't any. Ask them about the rehab. I imagine it's putting one of those cartoon stickers over the place where they put the needle. Either way, have the conversation, and then you get to make a smart decision. My guess is you'll make the decision so many others have, and you'll go with QC Kinetix. When we come back, we'll get to your texts, your calls. Ron is on the line. It's 303-696-1971. There's a line open. It's George Brauchler on the George Show, 710 KNUS. Is this AC/DC, Billy? Who is this? Of course, I'm kidding. It's
I'm just
so sorry.
Do you know the duet here? Do you know who that is?
Wait a minute. That's a guy from the 90s. No, that's Elton
70s.
John. That's
yes,
Elton John.
Is.
Oh, my
yes.
God. Yeah. And is this the one with Elton John and Dolly Parton?
No. No.
Is this Elton John and Sinead O'Connor?
No, this is Cold Heart. This is Elton John and Dua Lipa.
Oh, why don't I? Dua Lipa.
Yeah.
Now, listen, I have got that levitating song in my head
there
all
you
the
go.
time. And yet, this
is the one where Elton John did a series of duets. He's got one with.
Does he have a duet
Britney.
with Tay-Tay?
No, not on this one. Yeah, see, there's Dua Lipa. And basically, this is three different Elton John songs that are all put together melodically to create this new song, Cold Heart. Yeah.
I'm going to have to listen to that on the way home. I like me
really
some
good.
Dua Lipa. And of course, I'm a big fan of EJ's. I'm sorry he's ended his touring career after 4,000 shows.
Although he said he's coming back.
Yeah, but
during his last show.
Only if we stop using gas mowers.
Yes, that's the thing. That's the leaf blower.
The 303-696-1971 texters, and then we'll get to Ron. I like to know what the difference is between propane and natural gas. I'm sorry I didn't ask that. I should have asked that.
You mentioned that right beforehand, and so I went and I looked. Yeah, it's they're similar, but there are some chemical composition differences. They're both drawn out of the ground. Propane is a more energy efficient to use. You get more energy out of propane. It's more difficult to store. You can't necessarily throw it through pipes and stuff into your house. It has to be stored in a tank. You do have some dangers there. It also is that natural gas is heavier than air, but propane is lighter than air. So there's a kind of an issue there too. So
it's also the difference between someone who just hurts you out of emotion and someone who is a torturer, because it's the difference between amateur pain and propane. 303-696-1971 is the number. Ron, you're on 710 KNUS. What do you think, Ron?
Hello.
Colonel. Hey, thanks for calling back, man. I know we had you on hold, and then I told Billy, I'm like, we're not going to stick Ron with 60 seconds. So what do you got for us?
Billy and I are friends, and he's my favorite producer. And
same.
My biggest problem in life is trying to figure out how to teach these rabbits to eat the weeds instead of my grass.
You know what? That's a first world problem, friend. If that's your biggest problem, you've got life nailed.
Joe and Frank, but not on my time.
Yeah.
I enjoyed Dan. I really enjoyed him.
Dan's great.
I don't know where to start. With what are the commercial lawnmower companies going to do?
I guess they're going to have to transition
that won't
to electric or something. I don't know.
Basically, what they're doing is they're saying, okay, you can't buy it here, and what they're doing is they're getting the dealerships to shut down because they won't be able to service your lawnmower anymore. So they force them that way. Same way in LA. By 2035, you can't buy a gas car in LA County, which means all the dealerships, yes, all the dealerships have to go to EVs.
Or can they just start selling the gas stuff outside of LA County, like go down to San Diego?
You go outside and buy it. Yeah. But, and I was watching a really interesting show this weekend. I think it was PBS. But they were talking about all the battery plants that are being built in Europe. There's 14 of them. 3 of them are U.S., 4 are Asian, and then the rest a mix of European. This push is worldwide.
Yeah.
I've watched it in San Francisco when I visit my daughter out there for the last 10 years. The driverless cars are General Electric and Google. And they're amazing to watch when they run them the most after 1 o'clock in the morning to 6 o'clock in the morning. And they run them on the same routes in front of my daughter's apartment building. And it's just hilarious to watch them when they get all confused. They're sticks.
Oh, Lord. Is that real? That happens?
Yes. I've got pictures of it. It's real. There's San Francisco University is up the hill from where my daughter lives, and they have a deal with all the colleges where they'll give the students free transportation if they'll get in the driverless vehicle.
Huh.
Yeah. But in Europe, there's also a guy that was on, it was really interesting show. You ought to see if you can find it, because it was all about electric trains in Europe and the push for EVs.
Is it working?
No. What happened is with all the electric trains, the super fast ones,
yeah,
they let all of the old lines degrade and fall apart. There are towns with no transportation in northern France.
What?
I mean, it's so they show where
how do they all get together to surrender? Or...
Well, guess what? They all share tracks, and there were 14 different companies that had to get together to do it.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's and then one of the guys that's pushing it, listening to him was unbelievable. It was so ridiculous, because he was talking about how, well, we're all going to EV, and eventually we'll all have self-drive cars, but they'll all be government-owned, so all transportation will be
I see that
free.
coming. I've even heard that for some equipment stuff, that this idea that everything will be owned by the state and it'll be loaned out, or there'll be this collective ownership of tools and stuff like that. I've heard of that before.
And the androids, and then the last comment this guy made was, and then we'll have universal salaries and health care.
Oh my goodness, man. You know what I'm thinking of is that big ship in WALL-E. Did you ever see that animated Pixar show, that WALL-E? And they've got all the fat people that are just flying around in space being taken care of. And anyway, that's where I think we're getting to. We're just going to end up, because this is the precursor to the Matrix. Thank you, Ron, for scaring me. You have just set us up for the Matrix. We'll all be taken care of. We'll all be fed some sort of a paste with a thing stabbed in the back of our heads.
All right, thanks.
Ron, thank you for the call, my man. Ron's line is open at 303-696-1971. I'll get to Jim from Denver in a second. I got to tell you about a guy who has nothing plugged into his head except a super smart brain. His name is Dan Caplis. Guy's wicked smart. He has figured out a way to hold different companies and individuals accountable for the harm that they've caused, despite their best efforts to avoid responsibility. Now, usually that takes the form of big bad insurance companies trying to scare away the smaller, less experienced, less resource attorneys. Dan don't scare. I don't know if you've ever heard Dan talk or seen Dan in public. First off, he's uncomfortably tall. And I keep thinking at some point he'll get to an age where he starts shrinking. That hasn't happened yet. He is just a tall guy who looks younger than I do. And that's the reason that I really have a lot of tension with Dan. It's just the fact that he doesn't seem to age. This guy knows how to fight. He's willing to fight. He has the energy, he and Babar Wahid, to keep fighting until you say stop or until they give up. And that's just how it goes when you bring your injury to Dan Caplis. Now, whether it's caused by someone's negligence, intentional conduct, or sometimes, sometimes just straight up recklessness, Dan will figure out a way to maximize the only justice you're entitled to under the civil justice system. And that usually takes the form of money. That can't put you back to normal. It can't make everything right. Nobody can do that, but it can make life more tolerable, easier. It can help you to get past what someone else did. And that's what you deserve when you're hurt. Pick up the phone and call Dan and Bobber at 303-770-5551, 303-770-5551, or you can check them out at Dan Caplis, C-A-P-L-I-S, DanCaplisLaw.com. My guess is that's too where you can find things like they have the back-to-back $1 million plus verdicts, the biggest outcome against a trucking company, I think, in the history of the state of Colorado. There's probably a bunch of other things I can't remember at the moment, but that's what we have going on when you call up Dan Caplis, and you ought to do it. Jim from Denver, you're on 710 KNUS. Jim, what do you think?
Hey, good morning. It's kind of concerning about all the jobs that will be lost when we go away from burning rock for fire in a bottle and have to have electricity on everything other than our stupid smartphones. But I have a suggestion.
Yeah.
There is one job classification out there that makes maximum money or minimum work, and they're going to be flourishing in the future because it's just real estate agents. Because my real estate valuation went up $300,000.
What?
From one time to the next.
Jim, where the hell do you live? What kind of?
Well, I live down south in one of those suburbs. In fact,
did you
they had a
fix the drawbridge or something? How did it shoot up $300,000? You filled in the moat.
I put my wife on a treadmill, and everybody's seeing it now. That's probably what.
Oh, good for you, buddy. That is a great comment. Yeah. Good for you, man. So the real estate thing, I get it. This valuation thing is crazy. But let me ask your opinion on the whole government intervention to deny you the ability to buy gas mowers and all that other stuff. You okay with that? Not okay with that? Would you do anything to push back the gas stove stuff? Tell me where you're at with those things.
Well, I think what's left of our free markets, the little bit that's left, will probably regulate things out of existence because, we fought and fought and fought for, somebody fought. We cried and cried and cried for incandescent lamps, which are quite literally heaters. Now, farmers need heaters, in their lamps to keep the animals warm in the wintertime, so they don't freeze to death. But inside my house, she's got like 16 lights in that bathroom on a light bar. And when I took those little heaters out and replaced them with these semiconductor lights that the government's forcing upon us, I believe that bathroom is 25 degrees cooler.
Yeah, that's interesting. Do you
I wouldn't have done.
Do you own a gas mower? Do you do your own lawn or?
Yeah, I do all that, and I've got the gas stuff. I did pick up one of those. Thank God we got Chinese people working in factories for us. Gas weed trimmers or trimmers and blowers for like 99 American dollars. So.
That's not bad. That's not bad, my man. How about the gas stove thing? Here's where and this is where a good conversation with you about this. Joe from Arvada was like, the government shouldn't be doing this, but I'm sold on what Billy said, which is, hey, the lead paint discussion, the asbestos discussion, there is a role for government to intervene and try to minimize the damage that we do to ourselves and others. Do you think that translates into them trying to regulate the gas stove thing?
Yeah, eventually it will, and if they can do it to save just one child, they will do it.
That part is true.
And here's the thing: it makes sense to me because the government creates money out of thin air. They give it to the people that need it the least, and then they expect it to circulate around our economy. That's where things have become broken: is the money is taken out of circulation faster or as fast as it's being printed. So next thing you know, we got to have lobbyists that want more and more money printed with less and less competition, which is what all the lobbyists do in the first place.
Jim, thanks for the phone call, man. I love your comment about your bride. That's a great one. I'm going to steal that at some point when it becomes necessary. Jim's line is open. Let me tell you this. This is what I'm looking at the clock here, and our breaks have been so ridiculously long. Let's cut away for a break. We'll come back. I'm going to finish the show by telling you about a recent letter that Governor Polis penned. Stick around. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. Keeping them separated right here on 710 KNUS. Final segment of the last hour of the show here on Tuesday, 7-Eleven Slurpee Day. If you go into a 7-Eleven, they will give you a small Slurpee for free, or given what goes on in Denver and the surrounding area, you can just take any Slurpee that you want, probably for free as well. If they follow the King Soopers policies, of course, no one will ever be stopped for that. Now, listen, there's some stuff going on this weekend, some big stuff. If you're a fan of Taylor Swift and you wanted to go see her for back-to-back nights in Denver, you're probably going to pay somewhere around $8 to $10 billion to get a ticket to go to that thing. If you have one of those tickets, it's like the Willy Wonka golden ticket thing. Hold on to that thing or finance your college or a new car by selling it. But here's what's going on. Governor of the state of Colorado, who is pretty clever. I disagree with a lot of his policies. He's far more liberal than he lets on, but he is politically savvy. There's just no doubt about it. And when it comes to the pop culture thing, we know a couple things. One, he will never miss an opportunity to jump on a pop culture bandwagon if it will get him some sort of name ID or earned media. Earned is the kind you don't pay for. And two, he will defer to pop stars on things like, and big famous people on things like criminal justice. So this is a letter that has gotten a little bit of news traction. I got this off a Denver Gazette article, found this tweet with this letter attached, directed to Taylor Swift. It says, "Dear reader," and parenthetically it says, "Taylor, welcome to Denver. It's been waiting for you." And then he goes on to put a whole bunch of different song titles into a letter that is penned. It could have been by Jared. I doubt it, but it could have been penned by him. It's certainly signed by him. And it says, he's clever. "Colorado Swifties, the ones who understand you and I, are excited to have you back in the Mile High City! I know your performances will be gorgeous," bolded, "and have our heartbeats skipping down Colfax Avenue. I'm confident 140,000 plus concert goers," that's 2 nights, by the way, at Empower Field, "will look back and say your concert was highlighted the best day straight out of their another highlighted wildest dreams. They will spend the whole night dancing like they were 22. Bing. And it feels like there should be a bell every time he uses some sort of a song title or album title. And afterwards, they will all say, 'Taylor, come back, be here in Denver again soon.'" It's all very, very clever. And then he has this portion of this thing, which is, "I have a few pieces of advice for those attending. Focus on having fun. Stay hydrated." I mean, they spent some time on this thing to try to be clever and get this out here. I guess what struck me about this was how willingly he was willing to share, that just sounds dumb, how willingly he shared this correspondence written to ostensibly one of the biggest stars on the planet Earth, namely Taylor Swift, with this other stuff. But he will hide from us any communication that he had with Kim Kardashian about her input when he gave that super sweetheart deal. I mean, my God, folks, if you're talking about Hunter Biden getting a sweetheart deal through that prosecution, and I really don't know the answer to that yet, but it looks like he got a better than average deal. How about the fact that Governor Polis took a sentence that was earned by a dude who killed 4 people, and not killed them instantaneously, but like blew them up with fire and then burned like 5 or 6 others. That guy got his just desserts. He rejected any plea bargain, went to trial. Jury found him guilty of everything that he did, got a whole huge sentence, and then ended up converting it down to a 10-year sentence, which, as we discussed previously on the air, really spends like less than 4 years in prison for killing 4 people, less than a year in prison for every Coloradan that he set on fire and burned to death. That took place after communication with Kim Kardashian. And we reached out to find out if he would reveal who reached out to whom. Did he reach out to Kim Kardashian, who tweeted about it, or did she reach out to him? And what was the gist of the conversation? Dude hides from that, says, "Hey, that's part of the deliberative process, garbage," and won't tell us anything that happened. But here, when he can capitalize on a very favorable connection with one of the largest stars on the planet Earth, he's more than happy to share this letter. Now, I get it. They each serve different purposes, but come on, folks. I mean, we got to be able to see through this guy. This is ridiculous. My hope is that when he decides to run for president, that he'll be held accountable by a larger media, maybe the national media. I know, hold your breath, George. To get him to answer the question, did you speak with Kim Kardashian about commuting that sentence down to next to nothing? One last thing about that. Remember when they came out and they were asked the question, why did you reduce it down to something so de minimis? And his answer was that sentence that he got out of that judge and that jury, that was contrary to similar cases. I just want to remind you, there are no similar cases. There are no other cases I'm aware of, and I've only been doing this now for 28 years. There are no other cases I'm aware of where someone has killed 4 people criminally and gotten a 10-year sentence. Not in my lifetime that I'm aware of. If you know of something, let us know. But again, I think part of the problem here is that Taylor Swift has yet to weigh in on a case. If Taylor Swift were to show up and say, I think this is the right outcome on a case, I think you and I both know that sentence would be reduced. Anyway, I'm going to let you guys go for today. We'll be back tomorrow, still working on Lori Smith. We'd love to hear from her. And you stick around for the rest of the 710 offerings. It's George Brauchler, 710 KNUS.